Well, one of the greatest weeks of the year is here. It is Pacers and Racers, 6 days away from it. And luckily, we've got a lot on the schedule here to get us to Sunday, which will be certainly one we remember for a long, long time. Good Monday morning to you. Nice start here in the Circle City after what was certainly an entertaining weekend, and not just necessarily on the court or on the track. If you don't follow, we'll certainly explain it here over the next 3 hours. I'm Kevin Bowen, James Boyd alongside Mark Dykton, back in the saddle. Boys, good morning to you both.
Good morning to you. Obviously a busy weekend and a lot going on in the sports world. I know you were probably pretty locked in when it came to Scotty and what he did this weekend. And I was over at Fever as well, and obviously some history, I should say, over at IMS. So a lot to cover.
Mark, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Oh, he's here?
Yep.
He's working today?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Don't turn into Jeff all of a sudden here now. Yes. Had some field trips to go to at the end of last week. So, hey, the kids still want me to come to field trips with them. I will happily oblige. So could have been worse. Could have been working with you two instead of hanging out at Eagle Creek in the zoo.
Alive and well here at 7:01 on this Monday morning. To map out what today looks like in the rest of the week, we'll have Steve Prom join us at 9 o'clock. For those unfamiliar, that is Tyrese Halliburton's college coach. He wrote a piece in The Athletic earlier this month. I don't know if we talked too much about Tyrese Halliburton, the college player. So as we get ready for game one coming up on Wednesday nights, looking forward to that conversation. He'll join us at 9. And we'll have Kurt Cavin on at 8 because it was one of the wilder, I would say, Sundays in qualifying. And not necessarily from a bump standpoint. We've had great theater, great drama in getting the field down to 33. I don't think we got much of that really at all yesterday. But once again, Team Penske, for how perfect they are, they're not very perfect at cheating. That appears to be the case once again here, as that news item was pretty big yesterday. And then we have not only a rookie team, not only a rookie driver, but a man that before the cars took the track over at IMS, I guess late last month, had never been on a oval. Robert Schwartzman, for the first time since 1983, we will have a rookie lead us to the green flag coming up as he wins pole here for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. So quite the Monday in store for us here.
Yeah, he had to be pretty excited about that. I saw the reaction from him and his crew, and that was awesome. I must say, obviously, as someone who's not, that well-versed in racing history, to see something like that, to, win the pole and see the reaction from everyone else as well. First time since like the 80s, I believe, 83, something like that, for a rookie driver. Like, that was special stuff. So I enjoyed kind of digesting that, and now we'll see, a few days from now what he can do with it.
Yeah, it is going to be quite an interesting one, I feel like, coming up on Sunday, of Takuma Sato and Pato O'Ward rounding out row one, and exactly what that looks like when Schwartzman takes the field to green. Certainly a bunch of different storylines we can go to. Again, Team Penske, Will Power and Joseph Newgarden's cars specifically, I guess, failed inspection after initially Will Power's car went through inspection. So we'll chat with Kurt Cavin about that. Certainly there were some drivers that disagreed with the penalty. Pato O'Ward, one of them, very vocal. We'll play some audio upcoming for that. And then at one point yesterday, Joseph Newgarden goes on a stroll around IMS.
I got a kick out of this too.
During qualifying. And next thing you know, he is up in the Turn 3 grandstands with Jake Query appearing on our very own IndyCar radio network. And Joseph Newgarden called the shot. He goes, Robert Schwartzman's going to win pole. And lo and behold, Robert Schwartzman's on pole. So while the Penske team clearly has issues in following the rules, Joseph Newgarden could have laid one down in Vegas and made a lot of money yesterday on Robert Schwartzman.
Were you surprised at all that, of course, Jake Query kind of has this happen?
I know. We honestly Jake probably won't be up until 10, but I am curious, like, all of a sudden, did he, wave down to Joseph Newgarden?
Yeah, I need the backstory of, how this all kind of came to be.
He, climbs up there, because that is a long walk up to where Jake Query is sitting. But those two storylines, I mean, both of them, in two very different realms, were just huge yesterday. And, again, you go back to Saturday at IMS, and Colton Herta has one of the uglier crashes you'll ever see. And 4 hours later, Team Andretti has a backup car, and they're able to get it in the race. So it's always an entertaining qualifying weekend, and this one, I think, went to another level. Okay, we'll get you set coming up tomorrow. Rick Carlisle will join us at 8, Game 1 in Madison Square Garden. Coming up on Wednesday, as we did our show Friday morning, we're still awaiting final word on that series. The Knicks absolutely dismantled the Celtics there in Game 6. And honestly, the thing I'm struck by the most is you watch these New York Knicks fans celebrate, and it looks like a World Cup country that hasn't been in the World Cup in 50 years scoring a goal. I mean, it is amazing seeing the streets of New York, watching these Knicks fans
streets
celebrate.
left? Are there buildings left? I mean, some of the videos that I saw, I was like, man, the property
And that
will
one
not be looking
Pacers
the
fan
same.
getting bullied.
I did see that. That was also just a bad life choice. Like, why would you do that? They're not even playing each other yet. So you wearing that jersey,
You were asking for it?
yeah, you're asking for it. And
I
mean,
think the Pacers should reward him with some lower bowl tickets here for this series.
I don't know. I feel like maybe, but I feel like he probably made some poor decisions, and we should punish people for making poor decisions.
Somewhere James Johnson was like, I respect that, man.
The whole
Well, if you can
act
fight like James Johnson, you probably would act like that. But I don't think he was, barking up that tree.
the whole act like you've been there does not apply to Knicks fans.
No,
apparently.
no. And I think that's the
I think
biggest
I respect
myth.
it, though. I think I respect their passion. Like, in
You
professional...
say that now before a game has been played. I feel like that'll change when you're like, they're
No,
so cocky
No,
and
I
this and
don't.
that.
I know.
I think in professional sports, we just sit here and take a giant dump on fans
Whoa.
that don't care, don't
Whoa.
show up.
You know.
You got the Miami Heat fans that stroll in with like 2 minutes to go in the first quarter. I think I respect the Knicks fans' passion. I'm not, I'm going to pick Pacers in this series, but I'd rather have that than have the opposite.
I am team act like you've never been there before because it's sports. And when can you act ridiculous? Like, when can you be grown man, grown woman?
And I guess the
And
Knicks
just-
really haven't been there before.
It's 25 years. I think it was, who was it? Mike Breen saying if you're, under the age of obviously 25, you haven't seen your team in the conference finals. If you're under the age of 52, you've only seen it once or something like that. So they have really never been there before, at least in this era of Knicks basketball. So go crazy and embrace it. Because, to Kevin's point, if the Pacers come out and knock you off, you won't have much time to keep celebrating. So enjoy it while you can.
On the list of drivers, and Mark, feel free to double check me. Ed Carpenter later this week, Kyle Kirkwood, Scott McLaughlin.
Correct.
Is that
We will have
correct?
Doug Bowles on Carb Day, so that's always good too. And I'm sure we'll have some surprises along the way as well.
So a very, very busy week here. And, of course, Rick Carlisle will join us coming up here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Pacers practice today, off to New York late tomorrow. Again, Wednesday, Friday. So carb day here. And I early weather looks to be decent, maybe a hair chilly. So nothing a cold brew or two can't cure early in the morning for yours truly. That will be Friday morning for us out there at Carb Day. We look forward to seeing all of you out there. Gates open at 8 a.m. So they will practice today, 1 to 3. It's usually a very entertaining practice. Frankly, we've seen some fireworks in this Monday practice. Nothing on the track Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Back out there for Carb Day on Friday. And again, the early weather for Sunday looks much different than what we were thinking this time last year. Probably a little bit chillier than maybe most 500s. If you look at the temperature right now, kind of upper 60s, but nonetheless, precipitation doesn't look to be too high. We hopefully hope that is the case here the rest of the week. James Boyd, you were also over at the Fever season opener. They absolutely throttle the Chicago Sky over the weekend. A triple-double for Caitlin Clark. I thought Aaliyah Boston bounced back from a tough start. Very impressive for her, really, after that opening quarter there. And all in all, I think kind of what we thought. 35-point win is huge, but I thought seeing the Fever in full control is probably what you thought going into that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote after the game, this is not a rivalry. I know people want it to be, and I think the WNBA, more than anybody, wants it to be that because they tried to make that the marquee matchup of the opening weekend. But as we see, the teams are on different levels. The players, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, on different levels, and yeah, that's what I wrote after the game. It's not a rivalry until a team starts winning, and the Fever are 4-1 since Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have joined the WNBA. So, yeah, they're 4-1 against the Sky, and they're just two teams with two different timelines, quite frankly. The Fever looked like, despite so many missed layups, which we can get to some other time or something like that, they missed probably like 10 layups in that game, if not more. But despite all that, they won by 30. And the other team, the Sky, have a new coach, and Tyler Marsh, former Pacer assistant as well, and they're just trying to figure out who they want to be. So to me, it was very clear, like, where the teams are trending and what to expect later this season.
Yeah, honestly, I almost feel like the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese thing, to put it like in the Pacers Knicks terms, it'd be like if all of a sudden like Tyrese Halliburton and Mitchell Robinson started getting into it this series, and like it got blown out of proportion. Like Angel Reese is a very good rebounder, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give her more than that, mainly because she is an all-star, and Mitchell Robinson is not one and probably will never be one. But I think Angel is going to be a fine piece for the Sky moving forward. It's just that, again, there's levels to this. And
I mean, she's Walker Kessler. She's Jalen Duren. I mean, maybe the Mitchell Robinson thing's a little bit step below, but like people acting like these two are on the same level or even close to the same level.
Yeah, no, that.
I mean,
that
she's
to
5
me
of 14
is,
from the floor with 5 turnovers.
Yeah, that to me is unfair to her. You know what I mean? And also, I think when you look at the infrastructure of the Sky, as I was watching that game, I was like, man, like she doesn't have the right type of people around her to really allow her to dominate and do what she does. And maybe they're asking her to do a little bit too much. They want her to play on the perimeter and handle the ball. And I'm like, man, look, she was like, they want me to be more than a rebounder and a defender. And I'm like, what if you're just elite at that? Just be elite at that. I don't understand what the need to kind of expand it. But yes, there's levels to this. And obviously Caitlin showed that with the triple-double. I will say, I did notice she needed one more rebound to get the triple-double. And she went back in when they were up 30, I think, late in the fourth quarter. And I knew what that was, a little stat padding, as they say, which I actually do not mind stat padding at all. If you want to get a nice even triple-double, go for it. But yeah, she was obviously dominant in that season opening win. And obviously there was a little dust up there with the flagrant foul. I'll stand by what I said. It was a flagrant foul. There's an angle, and I can probably tweet it out or show you guys here in the studio. There's an angle from the backside. You can clearly see that Caitlin pushes her in the back. And yeah, did she embellish it? Did she react in a way that, warranted the refs to look at it further? Sure. But I can just say, as someone who's played basketball, not at that level, obviously, but if someone shoves you in the back, Caitlin will want that same exact call. So was it a big deal? Not really. I mean, play ball, move on. Doesn't change anything for the outcome of the game. But yeah, I believe it was a flagrant foul. It was fine. They moved on from it. And obviously, like I said, overall, the big takeaway was that the Fever looked pretty good against a lowly Sky team. And also, they can probably look a lot better by putting up 93 with 10 or 12 missed layups. I mean, they could not put the ball in the basket from 2 feet throughout the first half, it felt like.
Well, you might argue their defense was maybe their most impressive aspect, considering how poorly they guarded last year. You don't see the Fever holding teams to 58 points.
Yeah, good point.
And the field goal percentage that they did. Home tomorrow against Atlanta, at Atlanta coming up on Thursday. They've got a Saturday afternoon game on CBS against the New York Liberty. That will certainly be one to circle on the calendar. So it is quite the week here in the Circle City. On this Monday morning, again, Kurt Cavin going to join us coming up at 8 to recap a wild one yesterday over at IMS. Steve Prom, the college coach of Tyrese Halliburton, at 9 o'clock. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. One of the best weeks of the year is here. Enjoy it, and thanks for starting it with us. Robert Schwartzman. Not only is he a rookie, he's with a rookie team in Prema, and he is your pole sitter for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. The Israeli native Schwartzman coming over here had never been on an oval until they started on the track a few weeks back, and yesterday he took pole in what was a day that certainly was marred a bit by another cheating scandal involving Team Penske. Here was Robert Schwartzman on capturing the 109th Indianapolis 500 pole.
Here, I would not even expect us to be in this position. Obviously, I was dreaming about it. I was processing it in my head. How would it feel like? But I was like, it's a new team. It's the first time for me on the oval. Like, come on, how can I beat those, sharks that have been swimming here in the sea for so much time? But honestly, with our progression and our work and attitude that we had, it really paid off. That's what makes the difference. It's teamwork. It's, having right people with the same mentality and, taking care of things, go step by step by step. And that's where we tried our things. We improved the car, and we came to a point where the car was just amazing and was good enough to get the pole.
I thought his emotion was pretty cool post-qualifying run there. If you'd have told me at the start of the week you'd have a Prema-Rahal battle, I would have said, oh yeah, for probably the last spot in the field. But no, we had that for the first spot in the field. Takuma Sato will be in the middle of row 1, and Pato O'Ward will round out row 1, and then row 2, Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, Alex Palou. James Boyd, as an appreciator of sports stories, you got to love the rookie on the pole.
Absolutely. You know what I was thinking, looking at his age, he's 25. What's the coolest thing you all did at 25? Because whatever I did at 25, I don't know, maybe I think I got the job at Indy Star to cover the Pacers. That was pretty cool, but obviously it does not compare to being the guy who is making the history and actually out there competing. So that was really cool.
Renting a car for the first time, right?
Yeah.
25?
That was
probably it.
Good milestone.
I was going to say, like, getting 2 hours of sleep in the Coke lot before going to the Indianapolis 500 the next morning. Not a lot that I
Here's your Kia Soul, Mr. Dyke. Thank you, sir.
Captured there. Again, Team Penske, a cheating scandal. More with Kurt Cavin coming up at 8 o'clock here. The attenuator, the rear attenuator on the car of Will Power, basically it sounded like Will Power initially passed through inspection, and then Joseph Newgarden, his teammate's car, comes through inspection. They notice the attenuator. They bring Power's car back through. They notice the same thing on it. And so with Scott McLaughlin wrecking earlier in the practice session, Team Penske was banned from taking part in the Fast 12. Certainly a lot of comments on this. Pato O'Ward, I thought, had some very interesting comments that I had a hard time arguing with any of it. We'll play that Pato audio upcoming. But Team Penske will be there in row 4 coming up on Sunday. Pacers Knicks game 1 coming up on Wednesday. Do you guys see the line here for game 1?
I have not seen it.
I have, so I will.
James, want to take a stab at it?
So they're at New York. I'm going to say the Knicks by 3.5.
You don't bet a lot, but you certainly know what's going on here. A 4-point spread here for game 1. Rick Carlisle over the weekend on the challenge of the New York Knicks.
It's a great challenge. It's a great challenge. They've got a lot of weapons. Their rebounding is a daunting problem, and opening up at Madison Square Garden is another big challenge.
James, the Final Four set in the NBA. Yesterday's Game 7 really, after about the first quarter, didn't live up too much to a Game 7 hype there. It will be Thunder and T-Wolves getting started tomorrow night. It will be Pacers and Knicks, and kind of an unusual NBA twist. We have 4 teams that their cities would absolutely be going nuts if any of them won the NBA title here. We're not used to these 4 teams being the Final Four standing at all here. Not a lot of title history, not a lot of NBA Finals history with any of these 4 franchises.
No, not at all. Honestly, it feels like just a new era of the NBA and the passing of the torch or changing of the guard, however you want to phrase it, because so many of these guys are just young. You look at, who's left. Jalen Brunson is 28. Tyrese Halliburton is 25. Anthony Edwards is 23. SGA for OKC is 26. Like, these aren't, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, the guys that I really grew up watching when I was a teenager and a kid. So, yeah, it's been cool to see the changing of the guard. And I know some people might not like it, but I think if you're a fan of basketball, the actual sport and all the other fanfare around it, you're fine. Like, you're enjoying this. And it'll be fun to kind of have that throwback feel on one side, particularly in the East, when it comes to the Knicks and the Pacers.
If I gave you the West or the East right now to win it all, who would you say?
Oh, Lord. My predictions have been so horrible.
That's why we want you to predict
I know,
it.
exactly.
So the opposite happens. Fade you. Fade James Boyd.
I'll go OKC in the West. Best
I
team
could
in basketball
talk
all year.
myself into really any of the four. I mean, I sit here with Minnesota.
I know.
I'd probably pick Minnesota out West. But it should be great drama. Again, starting tomorrow out West and Pacers
don't be
Knicks.
dissing my picks now,
Hey, no,
Mark,
I'm with you.
okay?
I picked the Thunder in the preseason. I said Thunder Celtics in the finals.
Fever again all over the sky by 35 points. One of their biggest wins in franchise history, just strictly
It was like
by
the second
margin.
biggest or something like that?
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Second biggest? If Caitlin Clark with a triple-double, Leah Boston a double-double. Again, the Fever will take on the Atlanta Dream coming up tomorrow. They'll face Atlanta then on Thursday as well, but that one down there in Atlanta. Scotty Scheffler got interesting there early back nine. John Rahm made a run. Scotty a little bit of chink in the armor, and then those two went in an absolutely different direction for the final 7 or 8 holes. So Scotty Scheffler now halfway to the career Grand Slam. Major League Baseball. Great to have Mark back. Great to have the Reds with a sweep here, and also the Cubs with a sweep. So I guess you and I are both happy, Mark.
Yeah, it was good weekend.
Don't look now, but
There you
here
go.
come the Red Legs.
Nicest thing you've done for me. How about the Indianapolis Indians? A perfect homestand with the Louisville Bats there. Weather cooperated after the rain out on Friday. And I know we aren't big horse racing, but did you guys watch the Preakness by chance?
I did. I watched it. I did watch
What a
this.
race.
I caught the end of it when
Journalism, baby.
Yeah, when I was at the Fever game finishing up a story, we kind of stopped and watched, and we're like, all the corny journalism jokes came out among journalists, but it was a crazy race, though. Seriously, like that was pretty
For
special
those that
stuff.
missed it, journalism gets, I don't know, pinched, squeezed, pushed, run into, however you
Yeah.
want to describe it. And I think in horse racing at times when you see that happen, it could be catastrophic, frankly.
Yes.
And you see jockeys, and I think you saw one of the jockeys, pull up when that happens, but journalism did not do that. The jockey stayed with it and almost like kind of shot out of a cannon there. Then down
Photo
the
finish,
home
it felt
stretch,
like?
yeah, nearly a photo finish for sure. So journalism is your Preakness winner. Pato Ward didn't hold back in talking about Team Penske yesterday. We will hit that much more on Pacers Knicks coming up on the other side. Thanks for spending the Fan Morning Show Monday with us right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. Steve Prom, the college coach of Tyrese Halliburton at Iowa State, going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock. He wrote a piece in The Athletic actually a couple weeks back just talking about Tyrese's time at Iowa State. I feel like, James, we don't really know a whole lot about Tyrese Halliburton college-wise. It's just not something we talk about a whole lot, but certainly we've done the Halliburton angle on a variety of levels, so looking forward to that. Steve Prom going to join us coming up here at 9.
Yeah, all I know about Tyrese Halliburton's college career is, well, two things. One, he said when he went back to have not his jersey, but he had like a banner, I believe, raised because he's a gold Olympic champion, and he was saying it was funny because they refer to him as a legend now, and he was like, we were not legends when we were there at Iowa State. We did not have a bunch of success. It's kind of like, as time goes on, he built what is shaping up to be a Hall of Fame resume through the first 5 years of his career. He's like, yeah, they'll look back and say I was this, but I really wasn't in college. So honest Tyrese. And then number two, when I was on the beat more full time, we argued about the Big 12 and the Big 10 a lot. And he told me he hated Big 10 basketball. And I told him he only went to Iowa State because he couldn't get into Iowa. So it was, great times with Tyrese Halliburton.
Are we getting Iowa State at Purdue this year?
Are we? I'm not sure. I got to check that.
I thought that was on the non-conference schedule for
Tyrese and Mackey?
Matt Painter's bunch. You would think if it doesn't overlap with an NBA game,
That'd be cool.
you would think he will be behind that visiting bench. We'll do that coming up at 9. We'll get to a little Fever chat as well. Again, Rick Carlisle tomorrow, 8 o'clock as we get closer to Pacers and Knicks game 1 coming up on Wednesday. But we certainly had some drama yesterday over at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it happened just before the Fast 12 was getting ready to establish themselves in the first 4 rows of the race. So I guess to go over everything, James, go back to Saturday. You have 34 drivers attempting to qualify for 33 spots. On Saturday, we set the field 13-30. And for what it's worth on Saturday, we saw guys like Helio Castroneves fail inspection at one point. He had to pull his car out of the qualifying order. I believe Connor Daly did his run and then failed inspection. So he had to go back out later. You got about a 6-7 hour window for qualifying on Saturday. So the failing of inspection, I guess, is not like the most unusual thing in the world. But once we got spots 13-30 solved, we then go to Sunday, where we had 4 compete for 3 in the back row. Jacob Abel is your one bump car, a rookie this year from Dale Coyne. He will not be in the Indianapolis 500. Marco Andretti, Marcus Armstrong, and Renus VK did clinch those final 3 spots. And then when it was time for the Fast 12, you had Scott McLaughlin already wrecked earlier in the day in practice, so he was not expected to run in the Fast 12. But you had Will Power, supposedly his car makes it through inspection and is in line to get ready to qualify. And as Joseph Newgarden's car is going through inspection, they notice something with the rear attenuator on Newgarden's car that was alarming. I guess I'm paraphrasing.
But they kind of
here
pushed
the
it
word.
through from what I was reading or something like that.
So they pushed Power's car through. And then Newgarden's car, they notice, and they're like, wait a minute, will you bring Power's car back here?
Right.
Because we need to look. And they realize that, I guess, you can't mess with the attenuator at all.
Right.
And they had messed with it.
And it's not a coincidence.
In some, shape or form. And so they were barred from running in the Fast 12. Now, they had qualified Saturday.
Right.
So because they were one of the top 12 cars, the ruling came down, which, again, this is what gets into the most awkward thing. I'd argue one of the more awkward things in all of professional sports. Roger Goodell is owning an NFL team. That's what's happening with Roger Penske and IndyCar. Yeah. He runs a series and he owns a team. And so you have this awkward nature of, once again, Team Penske, who last year had the push-to-pass fiasco where Joseph Newgarden is very emotional in his apology about what happened at St. Pete. And here's Penske perfect, not perfect when it comes to cheating, clearly. So they are caught up in this. And now, starting Sunday, row 4 will be McLaughlin, Newgarden, and Power. None of them, again, were able to race in the top 12. Pato O'Ward, who has never really held back when it comes to speaking candidly about really IndyCar in general, but in particular these sorts of incidents. Mark, cue this audio up. This was Pato O'Ward explaining his thoughts, which had me nodding my head a whole lot on what happened with Team Penske.
They weren't accidentally doing it because they had the blowtorch right there in order to get it out. So Honestly, I feel for Abel and for everybody that did the disqualifications or the last chance qualifying. If those cars weren't in regulations, I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you what they were doing, how much speed that is, or if it is any speed. But obviously, it's not in regulation, and the rule is pretty black and white. And those cars should have been in the last chance qualifier. Like, those cars should have never. Obviously they didn't do anything in the Fast 12, but they should have been brought into the LCQ because they had that yesterday, I guarantee you, and until someone pointed it out today. So those cars, if they're disqualified today, they should have been disqualified yesterday. So it's a shame, really, because I don't think they don't need to be doing that stuff. Like, they're a great team. They've got great drivers. Why are you doing that? Makes no sense.
James Boyd, I hear all of it, and I just nod my head. I mean, it's hard to argue with anything Pato O'Ward just said, in my opinion. The one aspect I'd love to know more of is that aspect of, I guarantee, and he kind of walked it back a little bit, but he said, I guarantee they had that on Saturday. Is there any way, shape, or form? As you go through inspection, Are there pictures? Are there cameras? Is there anything we can go back to on Saturday? Because I get it. If your inspection team doesn't catch it, then unfortunately I am kind of, palms in the air right now of like, I don't know what you can do. But if all of a sudden, you are able to have some evidence that this was an issue on Saturday, then, I think Pato O'Ward is probably spot on in that at the very least, they need to earn their spot in the field. Again, Connor Daly doesn't pass inspection after having his qualifying run Saturday. He had to go back out there and earn his spot.
Right.
And he did. He earned 13th. He's going to start on the inside of row 5. At the very least, to me, that is a very fair question, and unfortunately one we probably won't get an answer to.
Yeah, I think, reading this yesterday and obviously listening back to some of what Pato O'Ward said, it just feels like, for a team that is that talented, has had that much success, he's asking why they do it is because you're always trying to find some edge, but at some point, obviously, you can't just say it's an edge or competitive nature. It's cheating. That's what it is. And, even listening to Doug Bowles' comments, you could tell how, like, I don't want to say crushed is the right word, but, like, just disappointed. Like, he was explaining the entire situation. He's like, yeah, we tried to, not give them the benefit of the doubt, but we were pushing the cars through. We saw something else kind of funny. We went, wait a second. That's not actually an accident. This is something we should probably monitor. And they did, all their checks and made sure before they, made this public and put it out there. Wait a second. This isn't some, coincidence. This is something that is on all of your cars and obviously has been deliberately tampered with to give you some sort of edge. So it is disappointing, and it does kind of, put this damper on, what's supposed to be this build-up to obviously the biggest race of the year. And then on top of that, to your point, Kevin, about positioning and things like that, where you start, does the punishment match, like, the quote-unquote crime in this sense?
Right.
I don't know if a lot of, other drivers and also, fans of the sport would feel that way.
Yeah, I just can't give Penske benefit of the doubt. Once a cheater, always a cheater. That's how I view things.
But the point you made about, like, them owning, so much of this and being involved, that is
what
interesting.
Makes it really messy. I mean, again,
because, like, you're going to police yourself. Oh, wait a second. I know exactly what I'll do to punish myself.
Like, is Roger Penske signing the inspector's checks? Isn't that right?
I mean, that's true to a degree. And
I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah.
It's
at the very least, it's weird. But even then, it raises questions about the integrity of the sport. And obviously, I don't want to go too far with, oh my God, it is, this huge, massive, crazy scandal.
But
it is.
It almost seems like one thing after,
exactly.
It's Patriots Spygate and then Patriots Deflategate.
Right.
It's like, I mean,
accumulation.
What else are they doing? If you're willing to do this,
yeah, I agree.
Like, what else
agree.
It
raises questions because you erode trust.
And, like, I found it fitting. Nathan Brown had a picture of Tim Centric, the president of Team Penske, coming out and speaking to the media afterwards. And you've got a fan right there that instead of the Team Penske branding on the shirt, it says Team Cheaters on the shirt. And it's like, well, that's hard to argue. Like, that's kind of what the type of bed that they've made for themselves. And Pato O'Ward's right. It's a shame because they are such a great, great team. And you would think, I guess, you would think they don't need to do this.
Yeah, I was reading, their president, Tim Cindric, and he's saying, we can win from the fourth row. Isn't it the first row? We'll give it a shot. And people are like, you should be grateful to have that. you shouldn't be on the fourth row at all.
Yeah.
Is the narrative, at least that I've read. And again, I'm not some driving racing expert, but I would think I have a little common sense when it comes to this stuff. And
it's a shame too. It kind of covers up the Robert Schwartzman story because here is a rookie
that is true,
and this is not a hyped rookie. This is not like a rookie going to Team Penske or Ganassi or Andretti. He's got no sidecar sponsor. I'm sitting there watching Tuesday's practice, and remember we had that big rain delay to start Tuesday's practice. And when the green flag drops for the Tuesday session, Prema, this team, they're not even ready to go out there. I'm like, it's a little bit like, did you not know the first day of school was today? And then there's this rain delay too, and they're unable to or they didn't feel like their car was ready enough to go out there.
Yeah.
And if you look at Schwartzman's practices last week, he had a very good Fast Friday, but you saw none of this Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Honestly, they probably looked more bound for the back row shootout than they did for the Fast 12 and then Fast 6. So, again, if you would have told me Prema versus Rahal on Sunday at IMS, I would have guessed for the last spot in the field, not for the first spot. So, just an unbelievable story. And Jake Query will have a very nice rookie luncheon here coming up here, knowing that it's going to be Robert Schwartzman. And I think no debate over Rookie of the Year. I know we had a little bit of that with Kyle Larson in some years past. I don't think there's any debate about Rookie of the Year here in 2025. So, again, our first row coming up on Sunday will be Robert Schwartzman on the inside of row 1. Takuma Sato, our two-time champion. Each time he started in the top 6, the man from Japan has gotten it done. We'll see if he can join a very illustrious group as a 3-time winner, 48 years old, I believe, Takuma Sato. And then Pato Ward, he is on the outside of row 1, first time in his young history at the 500 that he will start on the opening row. Much more with Kurt Cavin coming up here at 8 o'clock. We'll talk more about this. Again, Steve Prom, the college coach of Tyrese Halliburton, coming up at 9 o'clock. All right, let's get to a little Fever update. Keys to the game from yesterday is brought to you by the Hubler Automotive Group. You can check out your next car at drivehubler.com, Indiana's giant automotive group. James Boyd, you were in the building on Saturday afternoon. Bunny after bunny was missed, but I thought, honestly, the thing that stood out to me more than Caitlin Clark's triple-double, more than Aaliyah Boston hitting a 3 and having a double-double, was the defense the Fever played. They held Chicago to 58 points. If we remember from last year, the Fever could score. They couldn't guard. And sure, Chicago had some issues, but still, if the Fever can even sniff that sort of defensive effort on a routine basis, then this is a team that could be one of the last few standing this season.
Absolutely. I don't want to overreact to, obviously, two teams on totally different levels. I think it'll be a better test for them coming up this Saturday, I believe, at home against the defending champion New York Liberty. But nevertheless, an impressive performance and certainly a different approach on defense. And honestly, they have better defenders just as far as personnel goes. And Tasha Howard can guard 3 through 5. You have DeWanna Bonner, who's one of the more, long defenders that can obviously disrupt people. And so I thought that they looked really lively on that side of the ball. And this, again, is without Sophie Cunningham, who's another kind of like 3-and-D player as well, who missed the season opener with an ankle injury. It sounds like she'll be fine. She was warming up and things like that. But that team looked pretty good, and that was quite the statement by Caitlin Clark and crew.
They didn't hold a single opponent under 70 last season.
Every game was a shootout that they did win.
I mean, to start the year, it was like 90, 190, and so 58. I mean, boy, that is a number that, sure, Chicago, I don't think we're viewing them as maybe one of the premier teams by any means, but still, that stood out to me. Caitlin Clark, 20, 10, and 10, just 3 turnovers for her. I think that's a number to continue to watch. I know she had a couple early. Her passing. I mean,
Lord.
I was watching the game with Maddie, and she was like blown. She's like, gosh, I feel like she's such a good passer. And I said to her, for how good of the volleyball line shooter she is, I think her passing is her greatest skill.
It honestly might be, I did get a chance to watch Diana Taurasi coming up, WNBA All-Star. I mean, not All-Star, WNBA All-Time Leading Scorer, I'm sorry. And she could pass, but not like this. Caitlin is a true point guard. And I think to a certain extent, she was just like this in college, but because of her team around her, she was kind of forced to be, such a prolific scorer that you kind of forget, wait a second, she can really, get you the rock in unique ways. And I go back and forth on it, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy this. Who pushes the boundaries more on their passes, her or Tyrese? Like, Tyrese will drive me crazy because he jumps in the air for every pass, but hardly ever turns it over. And then Caitlin, if it's a flash, it is a good flash. the passes she throws, and then like the conviction she throws them with, I'm like, man, if you can keep your turnovers to 3 or less a game this year compared to, what was it, 5 or 6, sometimes last year, they're in great shape because I can deal with a couple of turnovers when she's moving the ball like that and putting her players in position to score. So Caitlin was just masterful. And like I said, I got a kick out of her going back in, up 30 to get that last rebound.
I thought you were showing me this angle in the break here. Certainly the Caitlin Clark foul on Angel Reese that was upgraded to a flagrant 1. I think obviously because it was Clark and Reese, we're talking about it. If it was Sydney Colson against Kia Nurse, I don't think we're all of a sudden chatting about it to the degree that we probably will. But the angle that you had, I thought the right hand, that's a good hard foul. That aspect of it, you're trying to certainly avoid an and 1, but certainly when you watch the angle that you showed, there is a pretty significant left-hand push. And when you do that in today's NBA or WNBA, that's going to be called a flagrant 1.
Yeah, it is what it is. And again, I put it out there right after it happened. I don't think this was a dirty play. I don't necessarily think that it was something where Caitlin's like, I'm going to go out and get her. It was just, like she said, a take foul, probably a little bit too hard of one. And Angel's reaction is fine to me because if you've played sports, you're going to get heated in the moment. And after the game, they both said, hey, it's a basketball play. We move on. It is what it is. And so that, to me, was not the story of the game. The story of the game, in my opinion, was how good the Fever looked and a new-look Chicago Sky team just trying to figure it out. So that, to me, was the biggest takeaway. And, again, I think the WNBA really wants this to be a rivalry, and I keep telling people it's not. It is not a rivalry. It'll drive in fans and certainly drive in viewers. I don't care what anybody says. They're like, oh, why would they put them together on the first game of the year when they're on 2 different levels? It's because people watch. Even if you watch to be a hater, like I do sometimes when I was watching the Steph Curry Warriors with Kevin Durant. Like I didn't necessarily love that team, but I watched them, and so I think that is the case when it comes to any Angel or Caitlin matchups. But clearly, 2 players on 2 different levels, 2 teams, 2 different levels, and that could not be any more true after the season opener.
Do you guys call this curse or smart planning from an optimistic fan?
Ooh, I like this. Where are you going with this?
Darnell with the message. KB, not putting the cart before the horse, but in any scenario possible, if and when the Pacers win the whole damn thing, do you have an idea for when the victory parade would be? I need to put the time in at work ASAP.
I like this guy. Respect.
Fan curse, optimistic fan.
I say this. Do you have to put in the time for work, or can you just say, like, you can fake COVID or something and say, hey, sorry, can't come into the office today? I mean, isn't that the thing? Like, if you get denied PTO, you can still say, well, I'm not feeling good today. I'm not
faking
showing up.
COVID in the middle of 2025. I don't know if it works like Jake Query faking it before our shrimp eating contest.
Just say you got, was it neurovirus? Say you got that done.
Yeah.
It's coming out of both ends. What do you want me to do? I got to stay home today.
Curse or smart planning from an optimistic fan? Where are we going here?
I'm going optimistic fan.
Yeah, you're not.
So this is not a fan curse?
No, I don't think that's
not
a
at all.
curse.
So if the Pacers get swept, no one's blaming Darnell for this?
No, if they get swept, they're most likely going to be blaming Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton. But no.
June 19th would be Game 6 of the Finals. June 22nd would be Game 7 of the NBA Finals if you're trying to project a little bit here.
No, the whole
down
fan
the road.
curse thing I don't buy either. Like, oh, he's got a perfect game into 6 innings, and someone says it in row 17 or something.
I think you've called me out for a weather curse before.
No, that would be Jake. That would be Jake calling you out for that because Jake doesn't want to be at the track. He's already going to be out there all day. He doesn't want to be out there any longer than he already has to be.
Tell you what, this weather. First off today,
Kevin.
Practice session from 1 to 3.
Kevin.
Looks great. No cars on the track Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We got a lot of rain in the forecast tomorrow. All good. No cars on the track Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The start of carb day is going to be chilly. So if you're coming out with us, you might need an extra layer or two. And some could use that as a liquid layer. Some could use that as a physical layer of clothing. That is your choice. I'll probably go with the liquid layer. That's what Friday looks like. And Sunday right now, precipitation below 30%. A high that I'm seeing right now of 66. That's pretty good weather, folks.
Yeah, that ain't bad.
Hell, it's much better than it was last year.
Yeah, anything's better than last year.
I mean, I would take that. That's like a perfect weather day because you're not going to be boiling in the heat, but you're also not going to be,
honestly,
freezing.
66 is one of those days. Like, if you've got your seats in the sun, you're probably happier you've got them in the sun than you do the shade.
Mm-hmm.
There are not many years like that. But that's what our early weather looks like here. Ed Carpenter, Kyle Kirkwood, Scott McLaughlin, some of the drivers that we will have on this week. Scott McLaughlin, big New York Knicks fan. The secondary ticket market for Game 3 coming up Sunday
I
night.
didn't even want to look.
Saw the cheapest ticket, $300 and change.
Oh, baby. You got it.
We're talking corner of the old balcony up there. I mean, you're helping Boomer rappel back up.
That's what
there.
I say. You sit next to God.
You think there'll be some blue and orange in the building Sunday?
Yes.
I'm a little worried about
Oh,
it.
Absolutely.
there definitely will.
Knicks fans are
Dude,
everywhere.
There was last year, wasn't there?
Man.
There's a pretty good chunk
I
last
can't remember last year.
Yeah, there were, and that was obviously the semifinals. This is the
Yes,
the
I
Eastern
do remember
Conference
this now.
Finals.
Yeah.
And if you want to play it out, I mean, Mondays is Memorial Day. You know, people aren't working really. We will have a show, by the way, coming up a week from Monday. But you would think some Knicks fans could obviously dabble into that. All right, more on everything that transpired over there at 16th and Georgetown over the weekend. Kurt Cavin, you'll hear him tonight. Trackside the Burger Bash outside of Gate 1. Weather looks outstanding for that. Bunch of drivers joining Kurt Cavin and Kevin Lee for that. Make sure you check it out. Cluster Truck will be out there as well. Kurt Cavin joins us next here. This is the Fan Morning Show. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. Hopefully have Jeff back coming up tomorrow. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
505, 232.098, 231.529. Lap number 4 in the books, 231.820. Not fast enough. The 4-lap average, good for the middle of row number 2 at 231.987. A rookie team and a rookie driver will lead the field to the green flag for the 109th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Rookie Robert Schwartzman sets on pole at Indy.
That is, of course, the voice of the great Mark Jaynes of the IndyCar Radio Network as Felix Rosenqvist rounded out his 4-lap run. That confirmed Robert Schwartzman, indeed the rookie with a rookie team. And, it's not like he's walking into Penske or Ganassi here. He will lead us to the green flag coming up on Sunday there. I love to see the emotion, not only from him, but that entire team and the crowd over at IMS. And what was a busy day. A lot to get to with our next guest. He will be a busy man tonight. It is the Burger Bash outside of Gate 1. Kurt Cavin and Kevin Lee. Trackside, of course, a must-listen all month long. And Kurt joins us right now. Kurt, good morning to you. How are you?
Well, still trying to process what I just watched yesterday. Pretty unbelievable stuff. There have been interesting and surprising moments at the Speedway, but this is as big as in that category as I can remember.
Let's start with the historic nature of that rookie leading us to green flag coming up on Sunday. If I told you Ray Hall versus Prema at the start of the week, you would have told me for the last spot in the field, not the first spot, right?
Boy, that's a good point in terms of Ray Hall. We think about Sato being, a strong contender at the Speedway, but you forget just how much struggles Ray Hall's team has had. And Graham qualifies 30th, and the other two cars not much of a factor, but Sato at the front, Prema at the front. Yeah, I could have easily put those two teams in the bottom 4.
I'll go here. When it comes to having the opportunity that Schwartzman had, are there moments, Kurt, where you're watching it like, man, this is just really cool? I know obviously you think about, the race itself, the pole positions, things like that, but like for him to have that moment at 25 years old, I was joking with these guys, I don't know what you were doing at 25 years old, but can you just imagine how cool that must be?
Yeah, it is. I remember the other moment that I think is comparable to this in my 39 years of covering it is Danica Patrick's qualifying run in 2005. I mean, she looked like a 12-year-old, daughter. She looked so young that year, and for her to qualify 4th, you just can't imagine the things they're able to do at such a young age and the bravery it takes and the skill and so forth. But really impressive. I went counting the number of rookies that have qualified on the front row, and I think I came up, and excluding the very first race when everyone was a rookie, I think there were 19 instances, and only 4 times have the rookie won the pole. So it's twice since 1950. So it's really a remarkable thing. We're kind of new to Robert Schwartzman. In fact, all during my story last night I was writing, I have to remember how to spell his name. That's how new he is. That's how new he is to our game. But, he's been a Formula One. He's been on their radar for a long time. He obviously has talent, but figuring out how to race on an oval is a whole different kettle of fish. And, that's what makes this more impressive, maybe more so than the age. It's just his lack of oval experience.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing him lead us to green on Sunday. I'm like, is he going to let Sato or Pato take us into 1, or is he going to be the one guiding us around there for the first lap? Again, that's the voice of Kurt Cavin. Of course, you'll hear him tonight trackside. Like I said, the Burger Bash outside of Gate 1. It will be a great time. Weather looks awesome. Tons of drivers will be joining Kurt Cavin and Kevin Lee over there for that. Kurt, the other big item certainly from yesterday was the Team Penske, I guess, cheating or, failing inspection, however you want to describe it there. I want to play the Pato Award clip for those that might have missed it earlier. This was Pato's reaction to Will Power, I guess Joseph Newgarden's car being flagged. They bring Power's car back through inspection, realized that the attenuator had been, messed with, and both of those cars were banned from the Fast 12. This was Pato Award's comments about Team Penske?
They weren't accidentally doing it because they had the blowtorch right there in order to get it out. So, I honestly feel for Abel and for everybody that did the disqualifications or the last chance qualifying. If those cars weren't in regulations, I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you what they were doing, how much speed that is, or if it is any speed. But obviously, it's not in regulation, and the rule is pretty black and white. And those cars should have been in the last chance qualifier. Like those cars should have never. Obviously, they didn't do anything in the Fast 12, but they should have been brought into the LCQ because they had that yesterday, I guarantee you, and until someone pointed it out today. So those cars, if they're disqualified today, they should have been disqualified yesterday. So it's a shame, really, because I don't think they don't need to be doing that stuff. Like they're a great team, they've got great drivers. Why are you doing that?
Kurt,
makes no sense.
Kurt, what do you make of Pato's comments?
Well, a lot of what he says obviously is has a lot of merit. The one element to that I disagreed with is you can't guarantee that Team Penske was in violation yesterday. Now, obviously, it doesn't take a lot of addition to come up with that number. 2 + 2 = 4 in a lot of cases, but you can't prove that they were improper yesterday or the day before. You just can't prove that. So all you can do with a competitor is if they're in violation at the time of that event, meaning yesterday was the Fast 12, then they're in violation. So that's the one element that I can come up with. By the way, just for those that don't understand what they did, think about the back of your car, and when you have the trunk, there's that gap between the trunk and the quarter panel, and race teams do everything they can do to seal up those cracks or those gaps, if you will. And there's in the attenuator in the back of the car, there was some place where they filled in the gaps, and when it was discovered, that's one of the areas of the race car, and there are many, but there are one of the areas where you're not allowed to modify. And so when it was found, it was addressed.
What questions would you have for, if you could put True Serum, whatever, Roger Penske, Tim Cindric, whoever you want to, maybe it's not the Saturday angle of it. What questions would you have?
Well, I think there's only two ways to go with it. Either you did it on purpose or you didn't, and both of those come with questions. If you did it on purpose, well, that seems explanatory. If you didn't do it on purpose and someone just did it rogue, how is that possible? So, anyway, there's a lot of things a lot of questions still to be answered, and I don't know that we'll get the answer. The bottom line is every team is pushing the envelope, and the one thing about Patos that makes a lot of sense is, Team Penske was, they should be, they just don't make mistakes. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's unfortunate, and I'm glad it was caught, and we'll move on, I guess.
Last one, and you talk about moving on. I'll go back to Schwartzman one more time. When you have an opportunity to sort of make history like he does, how much, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but do you go into it as a viewer, or maybe, I don't know, him as a driver, but like, do your ears kind of perk up now that he's in this position, and how do you kind of go about it? Like, what's success look like for him now that he's won the pole?
Well, I think I'm not sure if I have an answer to your specific question, but I can tell you this. I think over the next several days, as we lead into the green flag, I think there's going to be some reflection about the importance of the moment. You're leading 33 cars in a rolling start to the Indy 500. The experience that it takes to maintain your speed. I mean, he's a professional. Let's don't confuse the issue. He's not an 18-year-old kid. He's a professional, and he's very good. but he hasn't done that before, and the pressure on the pole sitter to start the race appropriately or in a good fashion it's real. And so I think as the days move on, the realization that this is a huge moment, not just to try to, win the Indy 500, but just to get it started. If we can get the race started, I think that'll take a lot of pressure off the moment. But again, he's a pro. I'm sure he'll be fine. He'll take a lot of advice, but I think he's going to get a lot of questions about handling the start of the Indy 500. It's rookies just, it's a tough thing for rookies regardless of where you start. And then you add the layer of being the pace setter to start the race. We've had other instances where it didn't go well for the pole sitter leading the Indy 500. I mean, sometimes it's what happens behind them and the yo-yo effect of start and stop and here we go and let's get this thing off in a clean fashion. I think Robert's going to, he's going to feel that a little bit here in the week ahead.
Boy, I could not agree more. I'm going to be locked into him leading us here to that green flag. Okay, Kurt, last one from me. And again, the Burger Bash tonight. We'll go first off. We got practice today, 1 to 3, and then tonight the Burger Bash with Kurt Cavin and Kevin Lee outside of Gate 1. I want to go back to Saturday though. The Colton Herta story. Like if we don't have Sunday unfold the way it did, let's say whatever Penske puts a car on row 1 and 2 cars on row 2, and Alex Palou takes pole. I feel like the Colton Herta story is maybe the story of the weekend. That crash, getting back in the car, Team Andretti getting that car ready to get into the field. He's not in the last 4, if you will, or the bump shootout at all. What did you make of everything that transpired Saturday for Colton Herta and that team?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of things I can't understand about race car drivers, and one of them is how they have the fortitude to get back in the car so quickly after a big moment like Marcus Armstrong had, like Colton Herta had, and just deliver. I mean, the fortitude that we have other words for that, but that it takes to do that is so impressive. And, the thing I liked about, hearing from Colton yesterday was he just kept saying, I am so happy to be in the Indy 500. What is he starting, 29th? I mean, he just was so appreciative of the challenge that he and the team overcame and faced with, and to get to the Indy 500. It just kind of shows how much it means to these individuals, and just an impressive comeback by all of them. You're right. That was a big comeback from a team that really tore up a race car and wasn't completely, you're never completely ready to replace a race car that is, you spent months getting ready to run the Indy 500.
I lied. Last one, tier 1 for Kurt Cavin for Sunday looks like what after qualifying?
Well, I still like Palou, Newgarden, and Dixon. I don't have Robert Schwartzman in tier 1. I can tell you that.
What about Sato? You've always been a Sato guy.
I've been on Sato. He's been on the front row 2 times previously in his career, and he's won both races. So let's not discount Sato. No fear there. He's I'm going to have to get back on the Sato horse because he's been my guy over the last 10 years, and I'm not going to let him down now.
Kurt, set the scene for us tonight. For those unfamiliar with the Burger Bash, what will they be encountering outside of Gate 1?
So hopefully you go into this knowing that it's family friendly. It's free. You can bring your lawn chairs and just sit and be entertained for 2.5 hours. We'll have some giveaways. We'll have some auction items, all proceeds benefiting the IU Cancer Center. But it's just an opportunity to bring the Indy 500 to people who aren't inside the gates, honestly. I mean, they've probably been there during the month, but we're going to bring drivers. You're going to get to see and hear from them. It's not an autograph availability, but we do have drivers get with a backdrop and let kids get their photograph with drivers. I just think it's an opportunity. It was always an opportunity to bring the race closer to those that didn't have a silver badge or a bronze badge. And so kids will go home with things, and they'll get a chance to see drivers up close and personal. And again, it's free. So 5:30 to 8 o'clock. We do this every year. We used to be on carb night, but it really was easier to start doing it on Monday night of race week, and just a great time to be casual and to see these drivers in more of a personal situation.
Again, coming up tonight, 5:30. Weather looks terrific for Kurt Cavin and Kevin Lee. Kurt, no, it's a busy time of year. Appreciate you giving some time for us here on this Monday morning.
I can't wait to see James out there.
Yeah.
Good for that. We're excited.
First time. It'll be a good time. And again, I'm glad I'm not getting in any more cars anytime soon. Grandma will probably not approve of it. So
thanks, Kurt.
All right, see you.
That is Kurt Cavin right there on the Payless Slickers hotline. James Boyd experiencing his first Indianapolis 500 coming up on Sunday.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm still taking, tips and other things that I should do to prepare, but I'm excited for it. You can hear even Kurt, a guy who's been around it forever, how excited he is for it. And this time of year, I can see on your face you're getting some pep in the step.
We might need a segment or two here later this week to kind of give James Boyd some advice here, some fatherly, motherly advice from our callers here.
I would love that.
Set the scene for Sunday. Again, Scott McLaughlin, who he had a big wreck on Sunday during the practice yesterday. Big New York Knicks fan. He is, I believe, planning to be in the building no matter what happens, he says, Sunday for Game 3, Pacers and Knicks. Just brief thoughts on this matchup, James. I know we'll get more into it even later today, and certainly coming up tomorrow and Wednesday as well. But that was finalized Friday night with the Knicks absolutely dismantling Boston there in Game 6.
Yeah, I should probably stop giving predictions because I picked Boston in 7. Jeff egged me on, and it did not go very well for me on that end. But I will say, as far as the actual matchup goes, I think the biggest strength for the Pacers is their depth. They're just a deeper team overall than the Knicks. And then for the Knicks, I believe their advantage, or what they would hope, is that they can kind of stay in these games similar to Boston and, rely on one of the best closers in the league to get them over the hump, which is Jalen Brunson. I believe he's been lights out in the fourth quarter. I'll be the first to admit I did not expect him to be this good in New York and to be, arguably the best player on a championship team in this fashion. I always thought they needed one more piece, and maybe they still do, but to be in the Final Four of the NBA, hats off to him. And again, we'll get a classic matchup.
Game 1 coming up here on Wednesday. I think one thing that does, I like the Pacers in this series. I think I hinted at it last week. I'll probably pick Pacers in 5 or 6 when it's all said and done. But one thing that I do think is interesting that I don't know if it was felt fully last year, especially when OG Anunoby exited in Game 2 of the series. I do think the Knicks have in Bridges and potentially Anunoby. I think Anunoby will be on Pascal Siakam. But I do think they have some defenders for Tyrese Halliburton. And I don't think Milwaukee really did. And Max Strus, gave a hell of a full court effort until the final game of the series. But, they can, I think, guard Tyrese a little bit. Or at least have some, when Tyrese has had some of these quiet games. And remember, he had 2 very different games against New York this year. He had a goose egg, and then he went off against them.
Yeah.
So, during the regular season, sometimes you see the bigger, longer wing defenders kind of swallow him up a little bit. That is something I do think to keep an eye on here for this series. Again, I still like the Pacers for sure. I would actually throw Nembhard and Nesmith, kind of combine that matchup on Brunson. Maybe one quarter it's one guy, maybe one quarter it's the next guy. Keep fresh bodies. I know Brunson got into a rhythm with Nembhard last year in that series.
Just destroyed him.
But still, I think it's one of those things where you need to keep fresh defenders on him, especially deeper in the playoffs than you were last season. But that is one element that I do think New York probably feels good about. It's that they do have a couple bodies they can throw at Halliburton.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that the Western Conference, I believe, starts tomorrow for the finals. And, again, they get a very quick turnaround, OKC, to go right in there and try to, win Game 1 on their home court. So we'll see how that goes on that side. But, yes, going back to the Pacers and Knicks, they're well rested. I do want to know if they're going to have a little bit of rust there. The Knicks, they've been off as well, but again, look at depth. I think that the Pacers' depth will be the difference in this series. Both teams are very well conditioned, but when you have 10 conditioned guys versus maybe 7 or 8 that you can trust on the Knicks' side, I think it bodes better for the Pacers to just wear them down over time.
4-point underdog for Game 1 coming up Wednesday night. That is the Pacers here as this series begins on Wednesday. All right, let's hit a morning check down. All right, we've talked a lot about the 109th running of the 500. Again, a practice today, 1 to 3. They'll have a carb day session, and that will be it. So no cars on the track Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. A couple other items to note, non-Robert Schwartzman, non-Penske cheating division here. Your front row, again, Takuma Sato and Pato O'Ward will round out that front row. Row 2, some might take row 2 over row 1, just in terms of potential winners. Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, Alex Palou. You've got to go to the inside of row 3 to get your first American. That would be David Malukas on the inside of row 3. And row 5, some interest there just outside of the Fast 12. Connor Daly on the inside of row 5, and Alexander Rossi there in the middle of row 5. Mark Dykton, Kyle Kirkwood, Ed Carpenter, Scott McLaughlin among the drivers that will join us here throughout the week.
Yes, sir. And then Doug Bowles live at Carb Day. He's there. And then we have some irons in the fire for some other guests throughout the week and at Carb Day.
Boy, fingers crossed. But last year we had asked Doug Bowles way too much about the weather. Hopefully we will not have to ask him about that at all coming up. So far, looks pretty good, although maybe a little chillier than we are used to there for the 500. Game 7 did not turn out to be much of a game at all. The Thunder all over the T-Wolves, James, as you said, the Thunder all over the Nuggets in Game 7. As you said, the Western Conference Finals will start on Tuesday, and you still like the Thunder in that series?
I do. I think they've been the best team in basketball all year, and they went up against the best player in basketball, Nikola Jokic, and are able to kind of survive. So we'll see how it goes from there. But I do think that this is wide open, as Rick Carlisle said last week when it comes to the NBA Finals, who could win it. I don't feel like one team is like this absolute juggernaut like I felt maybe in years past.
I think I'll go T-Wolves in that series. I'm really looking forward to it. I echo certainly what you just said.
I think Edwards is 23.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm like,
a little passing of the torch out there in the West with Anthony Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here, and hell, maybe even in the East as well.
The other Game 7, by the way, in the NHL, not good either.
Ooh, how about the Leafs?
Rough.
I felt bad for our guy James Hinchcliffe.
Destroyed them.
Yeah.
Oh, I know he was sick.
Yeah, James Hinchcliffe could not be happy at all. Watching that, the Fever dominate the Sky over the weekend. They win by 35. You said second biggest win in franchise history.
I believe so. 35-point victory. It doesn't happen very often.
Jeez. And
again, they were cooking, and you got the full Caitlin Clark experience when it came to the crazy passes, the logo 3. She had some sweet custom Kobe's that she wore, Nikes, and I enjoyed seeing them get back in action.
She is an artist with the ball in her hand in terms of her vision and her touch, and it was on full display. Triple-double, only 3 turnovers for her. Leah Boston, I thought, bounced back from kind of a rough opening quarter there. Had a nice first game in year 3 for her. Again, Atlanta twice this week, Tuesday here, Thursday there, and as James said, the Liberty coming up on Saturday afternoon. That is a very anticipated matchup here for the Fever. Scotty Scheffler. It was a little bit nervy there with John Rahm early on the back 9. Rahm cut it to 1, and then from there, Scheffler put the pedal to the metal, and John Rahm looked like a car on the back row, if you can make the Indy 500 analogy. So Scotty Scheffler halfway to the Grand Slam, and Mark Dykton, it's the rare Monday where I compliment my baseball team and you compliment your baseball team.
It was a nice change of pace we've got going here. Both teams doing well, swept their weekend series.
Don't look now, but here come the Red Legs.
Is that twice in 90 minutes?
Yeah,
We're building bridges here.
You know, have you been cloned?
Yeah,
The friendship is
Do
strong.
you need something from me? Is there a little bit? Okay.
No. I mean, now that you
Don't
mention
buy it, listeners. When we go to break, he's going to be like, I need $5
like,
by tomorrow.
Well, no, I figured like this 4-game winning streak for the Reds, it's not going to last very long, so I might as well get my money's worth out of this drop, right?
There we go. That's the mark I know.
I knew
He's
he was
back.
in there. I was like, man,
back.
are you reading to your daughter again today? Have you gotten softer? Indianapolis Indians with a perfect homestand against the Louisville Bats there. So impressive 2-week homestand. They sweep the Bats this past week. And the Preakness. It was a great race. I know we didn't have the Derby winner in the Preakness, but journalism, it looked very dicey. And again, I say this in all seriousness, when you see diciness in a horse race, it can be catastrophic. Journalism gets bumped and pushed and squeezed and somehow makes it through all of that with a hell of a final stretch run there and takes home the Preakness. All right, coming up on the other side, reminder, Tyrese Halliburton's college coach Steve Prom at 9, much more on Pacers and Knicks and all the entertainment that happened over there at IMS over the weekend. Jeff should be back tomorrow. It's Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, and Mark Dykton with us here on The Fan. What a week it will be here in Indianapolis. Again, 1 to 3 today. Cars on the track coming up for what is usually a very entertaining practice session. We're done with the qualifying stuff. It is get that car into race trim and let's go. So hopefully no incidents today. Nothing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday over there at IMS. We'll be out there for Carb Day coming up on Friday. And, of course, at that point, we're getting you set for Game 2. Game 2 will be Friday in New York. Game 1 will be Wednesday. And then Sunday and Tuesday, that is a week from Tuesday, the home games here, 3 and 4. James Boyd, do you believe in people?
Do I believe in people?
I believe they exist, yes.
Do you believe in them showing integrity?
Not really. I think most of us don't have great integrity.
I'm not talking about Team Penske here. Do you believe in, if I ask for callers right now, 317-239-1070, as we give away 2 tickets to the Indianapolis 500, and if I ask for these callers to only call in if they've never been to the Indianapolis 500.
No chance. No chance.
Mark, do you believe in humanity?
I would like to say that there is humanity
You're asking
out
Mark
there.
this? No, he does not believe in humanity.
Whoa, hold on
do you hear
now.
the jokes he makes? But go ahead. I'm sorry. That was kind of rude.
How dare you,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
No, I would like to say that there is integrity out there.
Can you vet them at all? Is there any proper way to vet them?
Should I have them swear on their children's lives? You want to
Yeah,
go there?
boy, that's that's a lot. But
when your child is like
how
me, you just lie. Yeah, I'll swear on my kids' lives.
So James Boyd is going to his first Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. So the thought is we're going to give away tickets all week long, right, Mark?
Yep, all week long.
A pair of tickets each day.
Yep.
So I just thought with James taking part in that, let's get someone that's never been. And I have no idea how to vet it. I probably sound like my mom with optimism right now. And
do we want to take these callers on air and we can kind of vet them on air?
Boy, that gets real shady real quick. Now
shady, right?
Now I really feel like we got a Team Penske car trying to make it through inspection right now. Mark, I'll let you handle it off air. But 317-239-1070, please, and you know who you are.
Scouts honor.
Scouts honor. If you're calling in, please only do so if you've never been to the Indianapolis 500. We'll give away tickets here all week. James, someone asked who you guarding Karl Anthony Towns with.
Ooh.
You want Turner following him around, or you want Siakam?
I would probably want. I might go Miles on this one because you do want some more size when it comes to post play.
Taking Miles a little away from the basket, though, if Carl's stretching you out to the three-point line.
You know what? Actually, I'll pivot to Siakam, and I'll say this because. Not that you influence me at all, Kevin, but you are. You know a couple things. I think that Cat can be a little not physical enough in the post, and I think that's one of the biggest knocks on his game is that he doesn't necessarily use his physicality and his size all that well at times. So maybe he will kind of bail the Pacers out a little bit himself by shooting the threes. He loves to shoot. He wants to take outside shots. He can play in the post, but I don't think that necessarily is like all of his game. And he's one of those guys who can kind of fluctuate, kind of like Tyrese does every now and then, where he can go from having a 30 and 10 game to having a, 11.8 rebound game, depending on how things go. So I think Siakam would probably be a better fit.
Some people have said you put Turner on Josh Hart. Hart isn't probably one that's going to stretch the floor that much. Turner can roam a little bit off of that matchup. Rick said it yesterday at practice, or over the weekend at practice, and I will. Certainly I think we both will probably bring it up with him when he joins us tomorrow. But he called the Knicks a daunting challenge from a rebounding standpoint. I'd have to look a little deeper at this, but last year in that 7-game series, the team that won the rebounding won each game. I mean, that stands out to me, and it's probably worth bringing up. As much as Isaiah Hartenstein at times I think was a difference maker in that series, and he is no longer there. Remember, Mitchell Robinson didn't play in that series.
Yeah, he's going to be a huge factor.
And for those that have not watched the Knicks, we're talking about a backup center that in that Celtics series, a backup center was – the Knicks were plus 46 when he was on the floor. That is an amazing stat line to me about a dude that, teams have just kind of hack a Robinson to him a lot, but he was plus 46 as a backup center. So Thomas Bryant, Miles Turner, I don't know. And this is a rebounding menace out there. And again, he did not play in last year's matchup. So that I think is a big, big factor of, the Knicks starting lineup hasn't really been their best lineup. They've involved a lot of Robinson with combinations, even Deuce McBride. They don't go very deep, but those first two guys off the bench, maybe they're only two outside of Cameron Payne, those two can impact the game very positively.
Absolutely. And I think the way the Knicks would try to win this series is similar to others. You junk the game up. You try to crash, get offensive rebounds. You try to, make sure that the Pacers commit turnovers and do things out of their nature. And can you just keep it close? Because I'll give them credit. In close games, the Knicks usually perform pretty well, similar to the Pacers. It's just, can you get there? And I would expect the Pacers, if they do build a lead, unlike Boston Celtics, they won't blow 2 20-point leads in a game. And so, again, I look at the Knicks and I'm like, can you just stay close enough? That way in the fourth quarter you have a shot. Because without that, we've seen the Pacers put up some crazy numbers offensively, and I think that the Knicks can't really match that offensive output unless they junk the game up.
It's an obvious statement to make when a team is at home, but I think the early games even carry more weight for the Knicks, because I think as the deeper the series goes, the more they feel the Pacers' depth.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And okay, they played Friday night. They won't play again until Wednesday. That's easily the longest break.
Yeah,
once we get in the series, it's going every other night. So, game 1 and game 2 are always going to carry big weight for the home team. That's an obvious statement. But I think it's even a heightened level, because I think if you get to 4 and 5 and 6 potentially, and even 7, that's when you see the Pacers at their best. So I think that's something to keep in mind once the series gets underway. Mark Dighton, how integrity-filled do the individual sound?
So, Tom, congratulations. He claims he's never gone before. He swore on his children's lives.
Oh.
And he said he will absolutely...
He just offered that up, or you put feet to the fire?
I said, you're telling me the truth? He's like, I swore on my children's lives. Never went. Okay. I'm going to take you for your word. Maybe I'm a sucker. I'll take your word for it. But he said he will have fun. He can't wait to go. He's looking forward to it. So, Tom, congratulations. Have fun. Pair of tickets all week long to the Indy 500. We're trying to get first-timers to go, like James.
Yes, like me. So if you got any advice, by the way, feel free to throw some out there.
It's sold out, so it's a hot ticket anyway. But I'm also assuming that if you've gone before, you probably already have tickets. So people that aren't going, if you haven't gone before,
that is a good point. Yeah,
maybe
it's either you've been a million times and you just didn't think to really go again, or to your point, Mark, it's like I've never really been, and here's an opportunity for me to go. And to keep it real, sometimes money gets tight. So if you have an opportunity to get something free and a good experience, why not?
And if you already have tickets, you don't really want these. You can't resell them anyway. So you might as well just try to, if you already have tickets,
Mark,
you don't need
it real,
any more.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Ben asked, kind of do's and don'ts. I would say this to James, too, and I'd say this to anybody. And I'm not saying it's just because James is of an age demographic that, is a little bit younger than maybe some others. But obviously, the pre-race pageantry is a must. You need to be in your seat. Once I forget. I want to say it's 11:48, something like that, is when you start to get into kind of what I think is the bigger pre-race stuff. You want to be in your seat at that point. But I'd be getting in those gates at 9:30 or 10 and just walk around. If I'm James Boyd, I think you have to experience some sort of infield. I'm not saying you need to go at lap 180, but I think you need to experience just what the vastness of that track. And if your seats are, let's say we're giving away tickets and they're in the turn 3 grandstand, for example, boom, slide down, walk inside the track, spend 20, 30 minutes, people watching in the infield, and you'll have stories for a lifetime. Come back out and get your seats before the pre-race festivities start at 11:45. You'll have people grilling out in the infield. They'll offer you stuff. They might offer you maybe a little bit more than you want, but hey, you can always say no.
A little Hoosier hospitality.
Yeah. It goes a long, long way.
Yeah, if someone just hands you a drink, says drink this, you can say no.
Well, yes, thank you, Mark.
I would recommend that regardless.
Stranger danger.
As the
lessons
father
from
for
Mark
young
Dighton.
girls, very wise words. I think that's Mark Dighton.
Well,
Right
Carb
there.
Day, sometimes people are offering you shots and beers and everything like that, but, better safe than sorry.
I'm excited to experience my first Carb Day because I think that'll be my introduction to the madness and the happiness, obviously, of this event.
I think it's the perfect. It's like orientation.
It's like that.
Or welcome week, maybe. The perfect little initiation into what you will witness here coming up on Sunday.
Kevin, you're a Carb Day veteran. Do you think hotter weather's crazier people, or if it gets sloppy, is it sloppy weather? If we get some rain, Do we get a little wilder?
Definitely the rain, because the concert venue, I mean, just that grass turning into mud, and I mean, the hot weather, I mean, people are melting as well, but I would say rain would be where we get real slow.
Looks like it'll be a
Slip
little
and slides
cooler, but no
going.
rain for
I
Friday.
mean, honestly, weather looks great. Outside of a little bit cooler than you probably would expect, and we're talking, what, upper 60s, mid 60s, upper 60s? Precipitation looks very, very low for this weekend, so we'll continue to keep eyes out for that. The college coach of Tyrese Halliburton, Steve Prom, is going to join us here coming up at the 9 o'clock, in the 9 o'clock hour. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykman with you here on a Monday Fan Morning Show. All right, reminder coming up about 10 minutes. Steve Prom, the college coach for Tyrese Halliburton at Iowa State. I thought he wrote a nice piece in The Athletic, just kind of describing how Ty was as a player. Just 2 years at Iowa State. Again, not a super highly ranked recruit by any means. But we haven't really talked a whole lot about that side of Tyrese Halliburton. So as we get set for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, he will join us here coming up at 9. We'll do a little Goats of the Week around 9:30. Let's do a little Fever Focus, brought to you after every Fever game by Payless Liquors. You can get more in Payless at Payless Liquors. James, I thought the key for me, as much as the Caitlin Clark triple-double stands out, again, I thought Leah Boston really efficient after the first quarter. I am curious when Sophie Cunningham gets back, how much do we see her impact, maybe even the starting lineup. That'll be something to keep an eye on. But I just can't get over the defense. And certainly Chicago contributed to that. But again, James, last year the Fever played 40 games. They didn't hold a single opponent to under 70. Chicago Sky scored 58 on Saturday. I think their field goal percentage was under 30. I'm not acting like the Fever are going to be, prime Virginia here in their defensive effort. But if they can just snip, like they can score 90 falling out of bed. They did that last year, and they're more gifted.
They did it Saturday when they missed 10 layups and still scored 90.
I'm not worried about the offense, man.
Yeah.
If they can give you some sort of defensive effort, and again, this is with a lot of new personnel and a new coaching staff and a new system, then I think you've got some legitimacy to this team being one of the last few standing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, here's a story from my guy, Ben Pickman at The Athletic. He came over for the season opener, our WNBA writer, and he has it right here in the story that he wrote. They were number 11 in defensive rating last year, 12 teams in the WNBA last year. They have 13 this year with the expansion franchise out in California with the Valkyries. But then now, again, you go from number 11 defensive rating last year, bottom of the league, to Saturday you held the Chicago Sky to 29% shooting from the field, 22% from three. Now, obviously, some of that is the Sky just not having the talent to keep up, but that was a defensive lockdown. The game never really felt that close because it wasn't. 35-point win, I believe the second largest margin of victory in franchise history. And this is a franchise that has had, I know it was some dog days and dark years, but they've been a championship team before. So you think about, Tamika Catchings and what she meant defensively to this franchise. You're probably not getting that, anytime soon from any of your players, but if you can collectively bring that sort of spirit and energy on that side of the ball, it can certainly help you, be able to stack up against some of the better teams. And as I told, you all, I believe earlier, I'm very excited to see, and it's early in the season. It won't be a referendum on either team, especially not the Fever, but they do face the New York Liberty Saturday at Gamebridge, and I think that will be a real test to see.
Great barometer.
Okay,
yeah.
Where are you at defensively, offensively as well, but really defensively because, as we know, the Liberty can put up points as well.
Yeah, Atlanta and Chicago, we're not talking about them as playoff teams. Yeah, the New York Liberty in a different stratosphere, certainly. This was making the rounds on social media over the weekend, but we are about to enter a schedule. And again, in our market, late May is typically not super appointment television for sports.
No, it's usually just racing.
I mean, that's it.
Driving.
We aren't used to the Pacers necessarily, especially here as of late, playing this late into the month. I know we had it last year, but we hadn't had it for a long time before that. And, certainly the Fever didn't draw this type of headlines here really ever prior. Today, we have no Pacers Fever. Starting tomorrow, we will go Fever or Pacer game every single day through next Saturday, besides Monday, Memorial Day.
Right.
When we're recapping the 109th running of the race and we're recapping Game 3. So again, we'll go Fever tomorrow night, Game 1 Pacers. Fever Thursday, Game 2 Pacers. You mentioned Fever Liberty on Saturday. Of course, Sunday we'll get the race. We'll have a Game 3 inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Monday, nothing. And then next week, Pacers Tuesday, Fever Wednesday, Pacers Thursday. If necessary, Pacers Saturday and the Fever Friday. It's just a different world that we're currently living in. And again, for the Fever, it's not going to stop anytime soon. And honestly, for the Pacers, you feel like there's legitimate reasons why they are going to be playing deep into May, potentially even into June here in upcoming years.
Yeah, this feels different for the Pacers than last year. I know they went, to the conference finals a year ago as well, but it is wide open, like Rick Carlisle said, and I think they're a lot more confident this year. And I'll venture to say they're a better team than they were last year, not just health-wise, but just in general with their late game execution, the growth we've seen from, Andrew Nembhard, the growth we've seen from Aaron Nesmith. I was looking at some of his shooting numbers. He's been one of the best shooters in the playoffs, no matter the situation. It could be contested three-pointer, uncontested three-pointer, on the move, mid-range. His efficiency in just shot making has made him one of the most valuable players in all of the NBA, especially during this playoff run. So I'm excited about it. And to your point about, the fever and obviously the 500 coming up, this is fun. This is what I think a lot of young fans will look back on in years and say, hey, when it isn't perhaps this sweet or this good, you'll appreciate having these opportunities.
Again, I'm confident in the Pacers winning this series and winning it well before Game 7, but that aspect you just brought up, and not just Nesmith, Turner and Nembhard too. If you want to throw those in there, yes, Nesmith is probably the one atop those three, but Nesmith, Turner, and Nembhard are shooting the cover off the ball for what we're used to.
Yeah.
Remember late in the year, Nembhard had that big struggle. Like, we had a debate a time or two on the show of like, wait a minute here, should Mathurin be taking his minutes late game?
Yeah.
And he was really struggling shooting the basketball. So the fact that they played in New York last year, won arguably the biggest game of the season, a Game 7 in New York last year, I think gives me a little bit of hope that won't just all of a sudden be a huge issue. But I do think it's something worth acknowledging. Those three in particular, three of your supporting cast, role players, however you want to define them, they've shot the cover off it. Does that continue when I do think the defensive challenge in this series, particularly with those wings, Hart, Anunoby, and Bridges, ramps up a bit. All right, in 5 minutes, Steve Prom, the college coach for Tyrese Halliburton, he's going to join us next here. Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. What a week. Thank you for starting it with us here on this Monday morning. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, and Mark Dykton. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals coming up on Wednesday night. And certainly a lot of attention will be on the Pacers star, and that is Tyrese Halliburton. To get more on Ty, we go back to his collegiate days. His head coach at Iowa State, Steve Prom, is on the Payless Liquors hotline joining us. He wrote a great piece on The Athletic, actually. I coached Tyrese Halliburton in college. Here's why he's a special leader. Much more on that right now with Steve Prom. Coach, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How you guys doing up there today?
We are outstanding. If I could rack your brain a little bit, dating back to maybe the first interaction you saw of Tyrese Halliburton, what were your initial impressions?
You know, I first saw him as a junior, as a rising junior. I think it was maybe in Atlanta and AAU, and that's when we just had learned about him and we're kind of putting eyes on him. And, you know, he was obviously, you know, young and thin then. But when I really sat down to watch him play was going into his senior year. It was the last week of the live period out in Vegas. And I think the biggest thing that strikes you with Tyrese, and I think everybody that's ran in his circles or bumped into him probably feel the same way. It's just his personality, just an unbelievable charisma, unbelievable, you know, aura. And you know that person, when you walk in the room or you see him on the floor, you know that guy's obviously a really good player, but he's just got the it factor. And just the way he communicated with his teammates, the way he communicates with his coach, he just has such a smile and just such a joy of playing the game of basketball. And I think that just, especially with me being at Iowa State at the time, and there's such a love affair between the players and the fans there that, you know, certain guys there can just knock it out of the park if you got personality and you can play. And Tyrese was one of those guys that I was like, he's going to be a great fit here.
Steve, you made a great point there. I think that he's done a similar thing here in Indiana with the personality, the flair. And I'll go here, and I've asked Rick Carlisle this as well. When Tyrese plays the way he plays and is free and he's, you know, pushing the boundaries on jump passes and things like that, how did it maybe force you to kind of evolve as a coach when you have a guy who's that talented but also does things in kind of an unconventional way?
Yeah, I was texting with a good friend of mine from college the other day, and he was a really good player. I went to Alabama, and he was a really good player there back in the day when I was a manager there. And we were talking about Halliburton, and I just said, the one quote I use is, man, you just don't get in the way of good players. You just let them play and be free. You know, you're going to hold them accountable. You're going to discipline them. You're going to make sure they're doing the right things. But when it comes on the court, you're going to let them play free and play loose, and let them, you know, let them be great and let their greatness just, you know, come out. And he loves the jump pass, and, you know, you don't say anything. I had a kid, and they're going to play against each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. I had a kid here campaign when I was at Murray State. He did the same thing, and it's ironic they're playing against each other now. But Tyrese loves the jump pass. I think the one clip they showed the other day, he jumps and he gets Miles Turner for a layup at the end, and he's looking the complete other way, and he's in the air. He has such great vision and such great feel. But the best thing about Tyrese is he's just, from day one, he's a willing passer, and he wants to make people better. And I used to have to beg him. I'm like, hey, man, you got to shoot sometimes. Sophomore year, he really started shooting, and now he's obviously become a guy that's obviously a high assist and a high scorer.
I was going to follow up about that when it comes to his shot, because obviously as a college coach, you probably heard some of the chatters, will it translate and things like that. Did you all ever think about changing his shot, or did you know when you recruited him out of high school, this is what it's going to be? And obviously maybe you have to speed it up, like small tweaks here and there, but this will be kind of an unconventional release.
Yeah, I never talked to him one time about changing his shot. I think we maybe had one guy on the staff that, you know, would talk to him some, that had been an NBA scout, that talked to him a little bit about it. But I never one time, you know, brought him in or said, hey, let's look to change your shot. My biggest thing was always, does it go in? And
Yeah.
you're playing in the Big 12, and he's an elite guard. in the Big 12, which is obviously, either the first or second best league in the country year in, year out, and you're shooting over 40% from three against Kansas, against Baylor, against Texas, Texas Tech, all these teams that we played. I know Texas has moved on to SEC now, but all these great teams, and you're shooting 40% from three and better, why are you going to change it? I had a lot of scouts, when these people would call and ask, hey, what do you think about his shot? Is it going to translate? I said, guys, he's unbelievably productive. He's unbelievably efficient. He's going to be really, really a special player. And, he's always had the it factor, and he's won. You look at, he won a state championship his freshman year at Iowa State. We won a Big 12 tournament championship. And then now his next, obviously he's won a gold medal. He's won an under-19 gold medal. So that's 4 championships he's won. And I think if you go by leap years, he's only 6, I think. My kids joke about that, but I think he's 25 now or 26. And now his next thing is to win win an NBA championship. And he's 8 games away.
It's the voice of Steve Prom, the college coach of Tyrese Halliburton, with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Coach, in that piece that I mentioned that you had on The Athletic, you shared a couple months ago, you had been let go by Murray State, and it was in the midst of Tyrese and the Pacers in general having a wild month of March. And Ty, of course, hits that, kind of famous NFL play, falling out of bounds, floating in the air shot to beat the Bucks. And there you are in line to pick up one of your children at school the next day, and you get a call and you look down and it's Tyrese Halliburton. If you don't mind, could you share what he was calling you about?
Yeah. The best thing is, I've got 4 young kids under 10. So, and the thing about Tyrese, he knows all their names. And when we go up to see him at his camps, he's great with all those guys. But the best thing is I actually watched that game the night before, so I saw the shot against the Bucks. So I was, picking my oldest up, my 10-year-old up, and I had my other kids with me. And, he just had called to check in and make sure I was doing all right and my family was good. And just to make sure that he heard from me or that I heard from him, excuse me. And that meant a lot because, our relationship is, it's more than just basketball. Obviously, I'm real close with Brenda and John and his family. And, I've seen his journey really from, junior, senior in high school to now. And so I think he's just really just letting me know that, hey, he cares for me and he appreciates, my family and I. And I think, when you go through tough times as a father or as a husband, it's really, really important that your family, your young children and your wife see the special relationships that you have and the impact that you made on people. And I'm glad I've been able to play a little small part in Tyrese's success.
Again, Steve Prom joining us on the Payless Liquors Hotline. He is or was the college coach for Tyrese Halliburton. Last one from me, Coach. When you look at the career trajectory that Tyrese has had, obviously you knew he would be a good player, but what has surprised you the most when you look up maybe one day and see this guy just won a gold medal with Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant?
Yeah, his ceiling's unlimited now. I said this last year during the playoff run. I think it was on NBA Sirius Radio. I was talking to them, and I said I really think he's on a trajectory to be a Hall of Fame point guard, and that's even strength. That's even a stronger statement, and he's got it building a stronger case now. And he's young, and he's probably got 10, 12 more good years, I'm sure, maybe more than that, to play this game. But he's been special from day one. I think the trade, bringing him from Sacramento to Indiana, putting him in the Midwest, back closer to where he went to college, closer to where he's from, and in Wisconsin, and then being in that fan base, that love affair that they have, where it almost looks like a college scene. I think it's been great for him, and sky's the limits. But he's obviously, his assist to turnover ratio numbers are phenomenal. But I think the biggest thing he wants to do is win, and he did in high school. His freshman year, we were really good at Iowa State, and then obviously the under-19 gold medal, the gold medal that he just got with Steph and LeBron, and those experiences have just continued to build and make him the player that he is today. And it was great to see LeBron's tweet the other day, like, all right, come out. Who said he's overrated? You know, like, please, man, let yourself be heard right now, because without question, I think he's an elite guard in that league, and obviously I think he's got a chance to be a future Hall of Famer if he can continue on this path.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle had a very colorful. I want to see the faces of those people that that voted for Tyrese Halliburton overrated a few weeks back. That had us cracking up. Coach, we'll end with this, and really appreciate the time here on this Monday morning. But you had mentioned at some point, and again, you guys had a really talented team, especially Ty's first year at Iowa State. But at some point, some NBA scout was attending your practice, and said to you at one point, that is going to be your highest drafted player. What do you remember about like what struck that scout and why? It's not like Tyrese lit up individual numbers in college. Why he was going to be drafted so high?
Yeah, I think we had just gotten back from Maui, and we were off to a really good start his freshman year. And we had Taylor Horton-Tucker was with the Bulls, and Lindell Wigginton that played for the Bucks a little bit. Mariel Shayok, who was drafted. We had a really good team his freshman year, and Nick Weiler-Babs in Germany, and several other guys. But the one thing when I went up to the scout, he said, he basically said, who your highest draft pick's going to be? And I said, no, who you think? And he said Halliburton. And he just went on to talk about the way that he brought joy to practice, the way that he respected his older teammates, the seniors, the older guys, the way he took coaching, his ability to make people better. And I think it's a great lesson for everybody that's obviously trying to become an NBA player. There's so much that scouts are looking at. They're looking at assist to turnover ratio. They're not just looking at your scoring. They're looking at your efficiency. Can you make people better? But can you be coached? Do you make people better? Are you fun to be around? Can you be coached? Can you be held accountable? And then he plays with such a joy, and he's so appreciative of what he has and what he's been able to be a part of and where he's going, that it's really, really been fun to watch. But I think that's what stuck out without question. And it's what's made him who he is. And it's really cool to see the relationship him and Rick have developed. I think he's done a phenomenal job with Tyrese, and he's done a really, really special job with his team as well.
And we'll have Rick Carlisle joining us, as he does every Tuesday right here at 8 a.m. Steve Prom, the college coach of Tyrese Halliburton, with us here on this Monday morning. Coach, can't thank you enough. I'm sure it's been fun to watch, and I know you've got kind of split interest maybe in the Eastern Conference Finals, but pretty cool for you to watch two of your former players duking it out.
Thanks, and good luck to you guys and in the Eastern Conference Finals. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Coach. That is Steve Prom right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. A little bit more on the college aspect of Tyrese Halliburton's career. And again, James, that piece up on The Athletic, first person written from Steve Prom, and just what all went into not only the recruitment, but of course the 2 seasons that Tyrese did play at Iowa State.
I want to see the faces of those guys.
That was such a funny moment. And again, being in the room when Rick Carlisle said that, that was theater that night. And then he said it again too, you all. When he got up off the stand, he's walking back to like go into the locker room. He's like,
one more.
He's like, I'm serious. I want to see the faces. And I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be allowed, Rick. Anonymous is anonymous. But
Mark, did you hear about my drug deal last week?
Oh Lord.
No, please go into more detail though.
Oh Lord. Can I have one marijuana, please?
I felt so bad, man. All of a sudden, I'm getting ready to drive into work. You were out Thursday and Friday, right?
Yes,
all the days kind of run together at this point. And, I packed 2 shirts in my bag, one to wear and then one
to strip tease us
to change. And
so
I'm like, oh man, we got Kylan producing. I mean, Kylan's terrific, but I just felt so bad that, at one point during the show, I'd be taking my shirt off and putting on another shirt. So remember,
she's not the only girl you've apologized for taking your shirt off in front of, probably.
Yeah, that's sadly that is true.
Mark's back.
Remember last Tuesday when we had Rick on, day of the game, nothing says ask an intelligent question like asking him, day of a clinching game about a shirt he saw in the crowd. But remember the Plot Rickens
Plot Rickens,
shirt. So I bought one Met the dude over at DM the dude on Instagram. After about 6 or 7 Instagram messages, I finally said, like, hey, man, here's my number. And I felt like we were then progressing to the next stage in our relationship. He went window down. I went window down. He went head nod. Parlor Public House, nice little coffee shop, looks like from the outside. I didn't go in. Head nod. We did come out. We shook hands in the parking lot. Handed me the T-shirt, kind of a thicker T-shirt, honestly, which could be good for the 500, honestly, with some of the weather that we're seeing, just a little bit cooler temps. And then I exchanged a $30 Venmo with him. So should I ask Rick about the shirt? You think I should follow back up tomorrow?
I think you could. You could say, hey, I liked it so much, I possibly did something illegal in a parking lot.
And I know a guy, if you want a shirt. Maybe Abby would want one.
They come in like a brown paper bag and everything like that.
No, literally just handed.
What, a 40?
Yeah, exactly.
You should have rolled the $30 in like a rubber band and handed it to him.
Literally just handed it to me. But yes, I did have to take my shirt off last week when you were out.
So I heard. Yeah, that's like the second or third time I've been out, and you've conveniently taken your shirt off when I'm out.
Yeah,
so.
I started to call HR, but I was like, okay, I guess I'll let it go.
The last time was when I think Shrewsbury got hired. No, I was there for that one. There was another time he took his shirt off, and I was in Florida, and people were like, Kevin's taking his shirt off again. I'm like, I'm not responsible.
Was that
for
a Notre
this.
Dame playoff game?
It might have been. I don't know.
I think it had to have been.
That's all right.
Rick Carlisle scheduled to join us coming up here tomorrow at 8.
We don't body shame here on 107.5 The Fan.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, especially not. You can't be body shaming walking into carb day.
No.
Oh, agreed.
You will see all shapes and sizes, and all of them will flaunt it, which I love. We'll do Goats of the Week coming up here in a few minutes. Jiffy Lube, I should say stat of the day coming up in a few as well. Let's hit a morning check down. James Board, if I asked you to put the journalism hat on, the bigger storyline yesterday at IMS, was it our first rookie on the pole in over 40 years, or was it Team Penske being banned from competing in the Fast 12?
Team Penske, because as they say in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads. So drama always kind of takes over the positive stories, unfortunately.
Boy, I'm going to go, I don't disagree totally, but I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go with the best story, just the feel-good story, and that was Robert Schwartzman on the pole yesterday. Again, not only the first rookie in over 40 years, he's also with a rookie team. And guys, if you look at like his main side, what are they called? The side piece, I guess, on his car, he's got no sponsor. I'm like, can we get the man a sponsor here? Come on, Premo.
I think he probably earned one at this point.
He certainly did. Here was Robert Schwartzman yesterday after capturing the pole.
Here, I would not even expect us to be in this position. Obviously, I was dreaming about it. I was processing it in my head. How would it feel like? But I was like, it's a new team. It's the first time for me on the oval. Like, come on, how can I beat those, sharks that have been swimming here in the sea for so much time? But honestly, with our progression and our work and attitude that we had, it really paid off. That's what makes the difference. It's teamwork. It's, having right people with the same mentality and, taking care of things, go step by step by step. And that's where we tried our things. We improved the car, and we came to a point where the car was just amazing and was good enough to get the pole.
Coming up in a few, Mark, remind me, we need to play the Joseph Newgarden audio. So Joseph Newgarden goes on a jog during the qualifying run, like a legitimate run around the backstretch. And all of a sudden, Jake Query in turn 3 somehow alerts him like, hey, Joseph, come on up here. And Joseph Newgarden called his shot. He said Bobby Schwartzman is going to win the pole. I'm like, damn, Joseph Newgarden. I know your team's got a little questions and following the rules sometime, but you know how to gamble.
I respected it. That was actually pretty impressive.
And he doubled down on it at the end of the interview.
And I need to know how Jake pulled this off.
Yes.
Need the backstory on this.
I know. This is quite impressive. So if you missed it, we'll play that audio in a few. It's also Joseph Newgarden calling a qualifying run. Yeah. They did a fake qualifying run. Mark Janes tossing it to Joseph Newgarden. It was excellent. Great work by Jake. Great work by Newgarden, everybody in the IndyCar radio team. So we'll do that here in just a second. Again, game 1 coming up Wednesday, 4-point underdog, the Pacers against the Knicks, and we will get game 1 out west tomorrow. Game 7 did not really live up to much hype, really outside of the first quarter. The Thunder pulled away in convincing fashion. Thunder T-Wolves, appointment television starting tomorrow night. Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you like the Thunder.
I do like the Thunder. Best team in the league all year, and I think that will change in this series.
How about Alex Caruso? That effort he gave on Jokic.
Ooh, baby.
Talk about an important piece. That's a little Neesmith-Nemhard type vibe.
Yeah,
and what
he's certainly
Caruso
spot on.
means to the Thunder. Fever all over the sky in the opener on Saturday. Win by 35. James Boyd was there. Caitlin Clark triple-double. And Aaliyah Boston very efficient with her double-double after a first quarter in which the Fever missed a whole lot of bunnies.
Yeah, they look a little rusty out there. And honestly, I'm like, when I see Caitlin pass, I'm thinking of Magic Johnson. Like, keep your head on a swivel because the ball will find you. You just got to finish. And so, it must be pretty fun to play with a player like that. And it is cool to kind of see, again, one of the best point guards in the WNBA doing her thing. And obviously Tyrese doing his thing on the men's side for the Pacers. So I would argue that, pound for pound, the Pacers and Fever might have the best male and female passers in their respective leagues.
Alex, no body shaming. Kevin just looks like E.T. Mark, remember when the guy did the side-by-side of a few rolls I might have had on my
Yeah, I think I still have that
chest, stomach area? That wasn't one of my finer.
My computer.
That guy didn't get the right side of
Oh,
me.
you saved it to your computer, Mark? He can blackmail you. I hope you never do anything. Don't do any more drug deals, okay? Because you could be behind bars very quickly, my friend.
Somebody had put a Photoshop picture of you on E.T.'s body with the green Speedo on Monument Circle.
Dang, that's just rude.
How do you find that so quickly, man?
It's on my desktop. It's right here. It's not my back.
There are times we can't find simple Rick Carlisle audio, and yet you can find that. It's pathetic.
I want to see the faces of those guys.
Priorities.
Now that was Scotty Scheffler to the rest of the field yesterday.
Real
the
quick
PGA
on
Championship.
Scotty, it was funny to see him like put his kid down, give him something, and go sign his scorecard. And I was like, this is such parenting.
Real. Bennett, his son,
Yes.
the first major title with him on this earth. So Scott, it got interesting there. Early back nine, John Rahm cut it to 1, but then Scheffler looked like Scotty Scheffler in capturing his first PGA.
Just incredible and just typical Scotty Scheffler. I'm gonna just break you down piece by piece and pull away.
Quite a different leaderboard on Sunday than what it looked like when we did the show on Friday. Major League Baseball wise, Cubs sweep, Reds sweep, Indianapolis Indians with a 6-game sweep of the Louisville Bats. Now, Mark, just to be clear, this wasn't one of your 2-game sweeps that the Cubs have been known to brag about.
No, this is a 3-game sweep. It was a 3-game sweep against the White Sox, who are not very good. But
I just saw the photo. Oh, my gosh. This is so mean.
What the hell, Mark?
This is so mean.
I didn't make it.
Not necessary.
A listener presented it to me.
What is this? Oh, my gosh. Why did they do this to you?
Right in front of the circle. Oh,
actually,
that was the image people were going to see if Notre Dame would have pulled out a national championship.
Not much definition in the old Speedo either, if I must say so, which is probably pretty accurate, to be honest with you.
Kevin, you look much better than this guy with your shirt off, I must say.
Oh, man. Goats of the week upcoming. Joseph Newgarden with some outstanding radio on the IndyCar Radio Network. We'll play that upcoming. Mark Dykton, you can kiss my ass.
I heard that little bit of banter about Notre Dame making the national title game, and you're right. It's not everyone makes it there. Some teams win it when they do get there.
Gosh. Boom. I could feel the knife already in there. I was wondering when he was going to twist it, though. Enjoyed the convo with Steve Prom. That is the college coach for Tyrese Halliburton. I think you'll hear some fun stories from Steve Prom and his 2 years plus the recruitment of Tyrese Halliburton. That'll be up on the podcast. Reminder tomorrow, not only just Rick Carlisle, but also Ed Carpenter, 8:30 mark, Kyle Kirkwood, 9?
Yes.
Does that sound
correct.
right? So, of course, the Butler product and a fan favorite, Ed Carpenter, inside of row 6. I want to say Kyle Kirkwood, probably a little disappointed, honestly, from a qualifying standpoint. I thought he'd be a little bit higher in the race. Mark has embarrassed me with this ET picture.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't make it. A listener made it and just passed it along to us.
This
and then
is
I
the
think
funniest picture.
You actually shared it to me. I wouldn't have had it otherwise. And I said, well, obviously, if Kevin's okay with it, I'll save this to my desktop and I'll have this just handy for future references. And lo and behold, we had a future reference I needed to use it for.
I think what's frightening is how scary and realistic it looks.
They always offer. They always tell us in meetings, like, we need to offer context to the listeners. Like, the listeners are always changing. So if you missed that episode, maybe now you have some context behind the ET reference.
Has Max and Rosie seen this?
Well, they've certainly seen me without my shirt off, and again, it's a bit eerie how similar it is. I want to make sure we play this Joseph Newgarden audio. Again, kind of setting the scene for yesterday.
The most Jake experience ever.
They Team Penske gets banned from the Fast 12. Will Power's car goes through inspection. His team had messed with the attenuator. Joseph Newgarden's car is getting to go through inspection. They look at the attenuator on Newgarden's car, realize that something's up. They bring Power's car back in. They say, hey, both of you are out. So instead of qualifying, Joseph Newgarden, and again, his body looks a little different than ET. We watched that IndyCar series on whatever it was, the CW, and I felt like Maddie's favorite segment was when Joseph Newgarden had his shirt off working out, so I was kind of hoping we could fast forward through that part of it. But nonetheless, Newgarden goes on a jog down the backstretch, nothing like just your casual stroll down the backstretch during a break qualifying yesterday. And in turn 3, there is the lonely, but certainly willing to talk, Jake Query. And I thought this was outstanding radio yesterday. Joseph Newgarden climbing up to the turn 3 perch with Jake Query, and he also makes quite the bold proclamation that ended up becoming true.
Joseph Newgarden here, the back-to-back Indy 500 champion who is going to try to become the first man to win 3 straight, is going to do a fake simulated call here of a qualifying run or whatever you would like. Let me put the headsets on you. Hang on just a second. Don't mind Mark James talking in your ear.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead,
wow,
brother.
This is great. How's
it going, Joseph?
How do we do this? So can someone send it to me? Let's have Schwartzman, who I predict is going to be on the pole if he keeps it flat in his run, in just an hour's time from now.
All right, I'll call him out of turn 2 of the halfway point of the backstretch, okay?
Got it.
All right, here we go. So Robert Schwartzman off at turn number 2. He reaches the halfway point of the back straightaway. He comes into the view of Joseph Newgarden in turn number 3.
Unbelievable. Turn 3. He's bringing all the speed with everything that he can. If he can hold it flat, I believe it's the pole run for him. The young man's coming through turn 3 right now. He looks solid. A little bit of understeer to the wall. He's off into turn 4.
Oh, really good run for Robert Schwartzman. I'll tell you what, Zach Veach, pretty impressed with Schwartzman, pretty impressed with that turn 3 announcer as well.
It's been incredible. I don't know who's in turn 3. He sounds amazing. I mean, he's probably going to come in here next in the booth and take my spot.
Guys, this is like, I'm giddy. I feel like a young kid. You guys have the coolest job.
You have the coolest
job.
Yeah, hold on. Our job's pretty cool, but you, my man, have the coolest job.
All right, I'm going to get back to my run, but seriously, my prediction, Schwartzman, he's just got to hold it flat.
How about that? How about not only the call, you might argue he sounds better than Jake Query, and the prediction as well by Joseph Newgarden.
I got to go back, to being in tip-top shape, but yeah, by the way, he's going to win this.
Yeah. Because it's not like Schwartzman in the Fast 12. Schwartzman was up there, but I want to say he was like 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
It's not like he was first in the initial.
This wasn't a layup prediction. He put his neck out there a bit. And
man, we might need Joseph Newgarden on the show this week to take some bets here.
It's like Tony Romo-esque. When Tony Romo first started doing like live broadcasts of games, he would just call out every single play before it happened. So.
Ooh, Jake, I like Robert Schwartzman.
Very impressive there. I thought that was a cool moment yesterday. It is interesting. You look at these first 4 rows, there's a lot of people that might take row 2 or row 4 before they would take row 1.
Yeah.
Like if I gave you the 3 drivers in row 1, Robert Schwartzman, Takuma Sato, Pato O'Ward, or I could give you row 2, Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, Alex Blow, or I could give you row 4, the 3 Penske cars. That might be a question to throw at some of our guests throughout the week. Of those 3,
Which one you taking?
And again, I don't, it's Indy 500. You can start in row 2 and win. You can start in row 4 and win.
Yeah.
You get a little further back. It becomes a tad more difficult, but certainly something to keep an eye on. All right, Mark Dykton, cue us up for our GOATs of the weekend.
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good!
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
Our GOATs of the weekend. Again, we'll capitalize all the GOATs for our good GOAT, greatest of all time, and we'll go lowercase for the animal noises you indeed hear. Mark Dykton, you were out a couple days late last week, so we'll give you the floor in whichever way you want to start.
All right, we'll start with good because it's the week of the Indy 500. It can't be anything but a good weekend. I will go, and you're going to say I'm biased, but I don't care. Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs is very good at baseball.
Oh, dear Lord.
We
got to freaking go baseball.
Let the man have his moment.
The weekend we just had?
Hold on a second. Pete Crow Armstrong had a hell of a weekend, my friend. Not only did they sweep the White Sox, he had 8 hits, 8 RBIs, including 2 triples, and a 3-run homer. That's a pretty damn good weekend, I would say. So he is helping the Cubs. He's the catalyst of the offense right now, and he came over in the Javi Baez trade a couple of years ago. He has bloomed. He has blossomed. He looks very good, and the Cubs are rolling. I know it's against the White Sox, but Pete Crow Armstrong is very good at baseball. PCF&A. I like that man a lot.
Oh,
you want to call out your dude who's hit 4 home runs straight?
James Boyd, will you go?
Oh. now you've pissed me off.
My good GOAT of the week would have to be Caitlin Clark. Triple-double to start year 2 in the WNBA, and obviously was a statement towards her early MVP candidacy. I believe she's now already like 3rd all-time in WNBA history with 3 triple-doubles, which is the 3rd most in league history.
My great GOAT of the weekend, I had a lot of different thoughts here. Certainly I wasn't thinking, let's go with baseball here in mid-May. I'm going to go with Nick Allen. Nick Allen is the head crew chief of Team Andretti. For anybody that saw the Colton Herta crash on Saturday, first off, aero screen, safer barrier. I don't know if it saved the life of Colton Herta, but it certainly saved something from future damage. Not only does Herta get back in the car 4 hours later, but they get that car into the field. Like you saw with Marcus Armstrong, how difficult it can be to get that backup car in the field. I almost wish, and I don't know, maybe they're some of these are out there, and I get you want to be a little hidden in some of what you can do, but I wish we could see like almost a documentary style of like what goes into building a car in 4 hours. Like that is amazing to me. Not only, you're not building a car to go out there and get to one exit to the other. You're building a car to go 230 miles per hour. Herta has no practice time, and yet he gets it in the field. So shout out to Nick Allen there, the head of the Andretti team, in getting Colton Herta into the field. Mark, your negative GOAT of the week.
My negative GOAT are the pair of Game 7s we got, because both of those stunk. Neither of them lived up to the hype. And all this anticipation for Game 7s. You live for Game 7s if you're a sports fan. Both games just stunk. Blowouts in both. I felt for Maple Leafs fans who were just beside themselves. Jokic is talking about having to drink a lot of beer after the game, which I don't blame him. But yeah, both Game 7s for the NBA and the NHL, both stunk.
For my lowercase GOAT, I would probably have to go Team Penske, mainly because you cheated and you didn't cheat well enough because you got caught, and that kind of took away from what should be a positive build-up to the race, and it still will be. But yeah, that certainly put a little damper on things over at IMS.
Gosh, I'd love to know if Saturday they had that same issue, or if they had the same cheating attempt on Saturday, and yet it just cleared inspection like it initially did on Sunday. My negative GOAT, I feel like this is one of my worst weeks of sleep ever. This is a bad sleep week. The anticipation for Sunday in getting there, I feel like this week drags on. I feel like this week takes forever. I feel like I can't sleep. Last night we had a smoke alarm going off in the house, or one of the batteries out on the smoke alarm at about 3 a.m. I'm sitting there in my, skibbies looking up at the smoke alarm thinking, now which one is it?
I tweeted that picture out already.
I'm like, this is a precursor of the week we're about to endure. I don't think I'm in the minority here. I think Saturday is a tough sleep night for everybody waiting for the cannon to go off on Sunday.
It's gonna be even harder because you've got not only that, but you've got the Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's a long day on Sunday.
Boy, Sunday's a big pace your day. Can you imagine? How many people? 18,000 inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. How many people will do both?
And how many are going to be dragging ass once that game gets
what do you think? 1,000? 2,000?
I'd probably go at least 1,000, I would think.
I almost want to hear, if you're going to both, like, what's your game plan?
Yeah, we should honestly take some calls.
Yeah, because I definitely I will
tweet
not
at
see the
us. Tweet at us or give us a call. Even later in the week, if you're trying to do both, what's your plan in between? Because again, green flag 12:45. Weather looks fine, so we should be done around 3-ish. I mean, I guess you go home, right? I mean, depending on where home is, if you can get home by 5:30, do you nap it till 6:30 and then head back downtown?
Are you staying out and staying lubricated out there? And
boy, yeah. Because if you go home and all of a sudden you hit REM sleep, you might not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then keep in mind the traffic will certainly be different for the conference finals than it is for the regular playoff game. So, early will probably help you a little bit getting downtown. And look, I love the city, but we all know how those streets are because they're never finished. So keep that in mind, too.
Listener Dan, race, home, shower, more beers, Pacers.
I like that setup.
Succinct.
Stay upright. Don't lay down on the couch.
Hard to argue with that.
Yeah, once you get horizontal, it might get a little dicey for you.
Don't know if Dan will be tuning in at 7:01 next Monday when we're beginning our show. But nonetheless, we'll have the podcast as we are with you here coming up next Monday. One final time, Kevin Bowe and James Boyd, Mark Dykton here on The Fan. All right, I think I have a request for the Indiana Pacers, which now that I think about it, I've had a couple of them lately. You know, I've asked for John Halliburton to rappel in with Boomer. So far, we haven't seen that yet.
They're saying free pops on the internet.
Well, yeah, amen. Okay, so let's get him on the back of Boomer. We'll see if Game 3 that can happen. My other suggestion is this. So we've got this dilemma right now, going between the 500 and Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Bicentennial, Unity Plaza, James, great spot, right? Great spot. I love just walking over there and just getting a shot up or two, watching people shoot over there.
It's great.
I say the Pacers set up about 100, 200 cots on the court. Come over here and nap in between the race and Game 3.
I would love this.
Don't they do like some people do the IVs too? Have the IVs ready to go.
You could have IVs on the benches.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Isn't there like Slick's Bar? Or what's the bar called right
Slick's
there?
Bar, yeah.
So if people want to dabble in that. So again, you've got a nice overhang. Turn the court into Army cot setup, cold dorm setup, however you want to label it. Come over. We can have nap time. You know, kids, you need to read your books and stay on your cot from 4 to 6. Gates open at 6. Let's go.
Have the Boom Baby bar stocked. Have some
Boom Baby bar. That's
some coloring. This also goes back to integrity because it's sleeping in public. Want to make sure you have all your belongings when you wake up.
Well, you know, everybody can have a bucket. It's like going to after prom. Everybody can drop their belongings into the bucket there. Mark, you said we got a caller named Mark who's pulled off the double before?
Marcus pulled off the double.
So what do we got? 99, 04, and 13, I think, are other doubles.
13 was the last one, obviously.
Recent history here. Mm-hmm. Mark, tell us more about successfully pulling off the double.
Hey, KB, how you guys doing today?
We are outstanding, Mark.
This is Crazy Mark.
Hey, Crazy Mark.
Okay, this is the best way to do it, guys. Take your car, park downtown, get a ride to the track, take the bus back downtown. The beers, the bags of sativa gummies, those are all given, okay? That's what you want to do. Take your car, park downtown, get a ride to the track, get on the bus will take you straight to the field house.
Yeah, Mark is onto something here. Okay, thank you, Crazy Mark, for that. We need Mark on the wood, by the way. We need him boots on the ground.
I was gonna say I did not think about the bus option.
So yeah, you can bus to the track, right? I think you can bus from the airport. I think you can bus from downtown. I forget where else you can bus from. But that honestly is a pretty good idea to keep that car there. Okay, that's good for Mark. Brandon's informing me that TNT's doing the pregame. No. Charles, Shaq, all you're going to have to move on to Georgia Street. You're going to have to move somewhere else. We need the court for cots and nap time.
Shouldn't they just do the show from St. Elmo since Charles Barkley's so excited to go there?
Sure. Hell, they can do it from the circle right here. They can do it on our balcony for all I care.
I mean, hey, Mark knows what he's doing. What do you think about that game plan, Mark? Would you do that?
I mean, he said bag full of gummies and all that stuff. So he had a game plan right out of the gate.
I honestly thought Mark had a pretty good plan there.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Solid.
And you don't have to be crazy to do it. That seemed like
it actually is feasible.
Smart and sound thinking there.
Yeah.
You said we got one more caller. It's got a race dilemma.
Yeah,
is that right?
Nick called and he said, "I have a race day conundrum and I need the boys' opinion on things." So I said, "Okay, hang on, we'll get to you." So Nick, now you're on the air.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We are great, Nick. How are you to start this glorious week?
Oh, doing well, man. Can't wait for this weekend. So here's the situation. Going to the race, I have a good friend of mine's wedding downtown at 5:00.
You're not a good friend.
It's at the Bullseye Event Center. I couldn't agree more.
Wait. Time out. This is on Sunday?
Correct.
Oh, Jesus.
What in the world?
The day of the 500?
Nick,
are they from Indiana?
Sir. Yeah.
Bullseye Event Center Sunday at 5. I mean, I'm all for having your wedding off days to get a cheaper ticket, but damn, what are you in the wedding?
No, not in the wedding. I just wanted your guys' opinion on the logistics. Do I try to Uber from the track downtown? Do I leave early? Do I attempt to drive and get out of there early?
Are you going to game 3 or are you just race?
Just race and wedding, man.
Okay, race and wedding.
Would be a little much.
Yeah, boy.
This has all the makings of a cash bar at the
I have
wedding,
a lot of questions too.
Well,
like,
and
do you
my
have to
other
get
worry
changed?
too
Like,
is,
are you wearing a suit to the track?
My other worry is a shower. I'd offer him our showers down here in the basement, but I don't know if we could pull that off. You might just have to go with dude wipes in the car or something here, Nick.
Yeah, I'm not opposed
honestly,
to a little third bath.
I don't think the wedding is well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, frankly, to have a wedding on Sunday of the race. But, like, the idea of food and more drinking is probably not the end of the world, assuming you're not working on Monday at all. So that's not too crazy. It's more of logistically, how sanitary do you want to look for the wedding?
Yeah. Well, not too concerned. That I've already told him I'm coming from the race, so there's already a level of understanding.
Sure.
He's gonna come in smelling ripe.
And I think it's fine to show up late. I mean, let's be honest. He's not looking in the crowd for you. If he really cared about you, you'd be in the wedding.
Fair enough, KV.
How did they come up with a wedding date is what I want to know.
Nick, thank you for the call. We're up against.
I think it was the date. Just mark real quick. I think it was the date, the 5/25/25 thing.
Oh man, I just think you got to go with one Google of the date. Before one Google of that date before you go there. Mark, let's do a quick little Jiffy Lube stat of the day. Robert Schwartzman, am I saying that correctly? Is the first rookie to win the pole for the 500 since Teo Fabi in 1983. Prema Racing is the first team to win the 500 pole and its first team at IMS since 1984. That was Tom Sneva with Mayer Motor Racing. So, again, we've said that quite often this morning. It's not like, James, this is some rookie that joined Penske or Ganassi.
No.
This is a rookie that also joined a rookie team. And as Kurt Cavin said with us in the 8 o'clock hour, how he leads us to green is going to be fascinating to watch. Will the green flag be thrown? Will he meet the speed requirement? Will he let Sato or Pato go? It will be very interesting. James Boyd, Mark Dykta, thank you. Jeff should be back tomorrow. Rick Carlisle, Ed Carpenter, Kyle Kirkwood. The best week of the year.